I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
Welcome to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again. I hope everybody is doing well. We have entered a new stage, and wow. If I would say I'm disappointed with the community, that would be an understatement. I don't think that I have been more disillusioned with the community in a while. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like a lot of people are spiraling and not really sure how to do anything, and they have kind of adopted the most indefensible arguments that really don't make any sense if you think about them for more than 5 minutes. I'm referring to the discussions around Hassan. And I have to be honest, I'm starting to think some of these smaller creators are actually completely worthless to the community. And they're so desperate for clout that they've decided to adopt the anti-Hassan slop train. And I think a lot of people don't know what criticism is. They don't know what criticism is. They have the aesthetics of criticism without actually doing it. And they don't really understand the purpose of the streams that they watch. And they never really learned anything. And it's a very tough thing for me to take because, like, obviously, you know, I've spent so many years trying to educate and inform. And I really have to say I'm going to start subtly removing people that I see participating in these type of bad faith critiques, so-called, from my community, because I don't think that you people can be trained up. And there's a principle in organizing called the tyranny of the annoying. And basically what happens whenever you have left-wing spaces form is that a certain type of personality will emerge that focuses 100% of their time on criticizing the people in that left-wing space. And they never actually engage in any productive or constructive activity. And organizers, we call this the tyranny of the annoying. Like, let's say, for example, that you and I wanted to do a canvassing effort to prevent a homeless housing sweep, right? And we were walking around and we get together and somebody comes in, they set up their soapbox and they start yelling about something completely irrelevant. And then when everybody says, like, hey man, we're trying to, like, do this thing, they're like, you shouldn't want to do this thing. You should want to do my thing. That is the tyranny of the annoying. And a professional organizer will go to that person and say, listen, I feel your feelings. I understand you're passionate about this topic and it is important. However, we are here to do this thing. If you're not going to participate, you should leave. And if the person refuses to participate, they should be told to leave. And I think that people don't know what feels like any reasonable criticism gets co-opted by annoying assholes that just want to stir shit with exaggerated bad faith attacks. There wasn't any. I'm sorry, guys. The criticism of Hassan was not good. I'm sorry. I watched it. In fact, we can watch it if you want. We can watch it together, but it was propaganda, man. It wasn't criticism. It wasn't. And the reason why I say that is because the conversation is supposedly about the Matt Duss interview on the left, right? And here's the problem. There were no clips from the Matt Duss video or interview in the criticism video. Wait, I thought he mishandled the conversation. If he mishandled the conversation, we should have a clip. We should have something to grab onto where he did some normalization of liberal Zionism or something. It's just not happening. Also, I want to say something that's, I want to be loud and I want to be clear. You're not a producer of my stream. You're not a producer of Hassan's stream. I'm going to say what needs to be said because he's scared to say it. You're not part of the team. You're not on the team, bro. You're not on the team, bro. You don't tell Hassan who to hire, who to fire, how to run his process. You're not on the team, bro. And it's arrogant And it is wrong for you to act like you are. And for you to say, I just want to make this demand. You're not in charge. And you shouldn't be. That's anti-democratic. It's anti-democratic of you to just go out there and start making demands on Hassan on your own. You are not in charge. You are being an annoying asshole. And he's not a fucking politician, and neither am I. We are not in a political office. We don't hold power. I wish we did. We don't. We have now created an environment that is embarrassing. And the idea that Matt Duss, listen, I don't like Matt Duss. In fact, I think I've even said that on this stream that I don't like Matt Duss. But the idea that he's being, quote, platformed is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. This is one of the most senior progressive so-called foreign policy advisors. You're just being silly. He's not Nick Fuentes. He's not Destiny. He's not Vosh. He is a actual guy who gets his political power through his association with Bernie Sanders and the progressive movement in Congress. It's the United States Senate that platformed Matt Duss. And I don't know why Hassan, I think Hassan feels, and I haven't asked him about this, but I just don't think that people are able to act in a solidaristic fashion online when they're shilling their own channel with bad faith criticism, which is, and why don't we just watch it? Why don't we just watch the video? Because I want you to, I'm going to criticize it. I'm going to give you real criticism of a video. Okay. I'm not going to like pussyfoot around and nod my head just because I want to look like I'm woke.
So Hassan.
Okay. The first thing I want to laugh my ass off. Normalization. Bernie said normalization. This is the United States of America. We don't even normalize liberal Zionism here. This is fascist America, genocidal America, where the Democrats support genocide. Normalization? Are you okay? I don't know what you learned in Australia. I'm pretty sure Australia is extremely supportive of Israel as well. What are you talking about? I think Argentina may be the most supportive country of Israel in the world at this point. What are we talking about here? What are we doing? And the thing is, chat, this is not good for me. I could run along like some of the parasite streamers that hang around, and I could pretend that there was some legitimacy here. I could do that. I could go along with the chat. I could feed the fire, but it's bullshit, and I don't like it. And I don't want to live in this kind of streaming space. These people need to be corrected. You're not right. Hassan is not wrong for bringing on Bernie Sanders, foreign policy advisor, who made bad posts in 2013 that we disagreed with strongly. I called it a genocide October 9th. I said it was a genocidal response. I said that October 7th, that occupied people have the right to resist on October 7th. I have been anti-Zionist for 10 years. Not 2023, sorry, 2023, not 2013. Thank you for correcting me. Like, what are we talking about here? There has been no hint of tolerance for liberal Zionism here. Let's watch the video.
Hassan Piker
We're going to watch this because it's dog shit. I'm sorry, but it's trash. And I'm going to tell you why it's trash. Because, first of all, Democracy Now!, the reason why, if you were curious why Matt Duss was appearing on Hassan's stream, there was just a debate. That's the last video Democracy Now! Posted. John Mearsheimer versus Matt Duss on the Ukraine-Russia situation.
This is Democracy Now!
Like, this is not some sort of like, oh my, he was in obscurity and then Hassan platformed him. That's just a lie. It's not true. And like, for God, like, what is happening with people? What's going on? Do you people watch any content? Is it only Hassan? So let's watch this video. I want to watch it because it's important to discuss that this is not criticism. This is the aesthetics of criticism.
So Hassan Piker invited liberal.
This is the aesthetics of criticism. It takes the form of criticism, but then when we say what is the substance of the criticism, it's made up. I don't think you should accept that, and I don't think you should run after Hassan just because I like a lot of what Badapadada does, but I also know something about him that you should all know. He doesn't like you. He doesn't want America to have a left-wing movement. He is an accelerationist. He believes that fascism is going to accelerate America's decline. He doesn't want there to be a left because he thinks it'll stabilize the American empire. He wants you to die. I mean, like, it's okay to have an opinion. Like, I get it. If you know, he is Australian, so it's not like he's from the third world or something. But he doesn't want Zoran to win. He doesn't want like a social democratic turn in America because he doesn't believe that they would act any differently on foreign policy, even though that's dead fucking wrong. Like, I am not a Maoist. I'm not a third worldist. I'm not an anarchist. I don't agree. I think building a left wing in America would lead to less wars abroad, more conciliation, more international institutions. Like, he talks a lot about the United Nations, which was set up by America, by liberals in America, by social democrats in America who wanted to form international institutions. If we're going to talk about the United Nations requires left wing winning in America. If we want to have international institutions, that's where it's going to come from. And that's not chauvinistic. That's just a basic material understanding of history and how things proceeded. It was the victors. The alliance in World War II was not the Allies. They were called the United Nations. The United Nations is a continuation of the victorious Allied powers of World War II. And this is the reality. And like, I've always had this disagreement with Bada Panada. And I feel like, I don't know what's been going on in the community lately. I think it's the anxiety of defeat, because don't get it wrong. We are losing right now. We are losing. Sure, the Democrats are unpopular, but we have not built an alternative. We have not constructed a movement that is going to supplant the Democrats. We have not constructed a movement that is going to stand up to Trump. We are in trouble. As Linda Sarsour recently posted, can you link me that? Can you link me the post, Jessica? I want to read your post, but I think it would be better visually if you could just link me it. So let's watch this video. And I'm watching it because I want you to understand something, chat. This is not criticism. This is vacuous. Let's get into it.
Zionist propagandist Matt Duss onto his stream for a nice chat. Why Bernie's foreign policy advisor broke with DC Democrats. He even uploaded it to his channel. He never uploaded his talk with me to his channel. So
okay, less than 30 seconds into the channel and you're making a narcissistic comment about how they didn't upload a video of you on their channel is a weird snide comment. That is very weird, man. Very weird, man. And I think the reason why Hassan hasn't brought you on is because he recognizes that you're not a steady, solidaristic ally and you don't really care about the American left. And we do. What separates me from Bada Panada, the number one thing is that I think it's worth it. If Bernie Sanders would have won, it would have been worth it. I think it's worth it to have Zoran Mamdani win. I think having Democratic Socialists win more power would be worth it. I think it would be a good thing, not just for American domestic policy, but for American foreign policy. Because I think an American Democratic Socialist president would have picked up the phone and told Benjamin Netanyahu to end the genocide 2 years ago. Maybe they wouldn't have dismantled NATO. Maybe they wouldn't have dismantled all of the foreign policy programs that I dislike. But they would have built something better than what we have now, which is we have a fascist wave rising. And if you don't agree with me, I think you're just wrong. It was Noah's video to post. It wasn't even Hassan's stream. Yes, it wasn't Hassan's stream. Is Bernie anti-Zionist? I would say he's not. I would say Bernie Sanders is a liberal Zionist who allies himself with anti-Zionists. I think this is my feeling about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders may be an old liberal Zionist representing a binationalist argument that no longer exists in Israel and is not viable based on the conditions on the ground. But Bernie Sanders doesn't engage in left punching where he tries to stop anti-Zionist politicians. It's the same thing as Brad Lander. I don't like Brad Lander. I criticize Brad Lander thoroughly. Don't you guys remember? Because he's a liberal Zionist. If there's anybody who despises liberal Zionists, is there anyone who despises them more than me? But I'm also trying to operate within the political realities that we have. When I was on DSA and leadership, I ran on a Black Panther Party type platform. However, when it came time for the rest of my comrades to back me up, they caved to funding electoralism and other things that have turned out to be a complete waste of time and energy. I don't agree with that. I don't think electoralism has been a complete waste of time and energy. Can we talk about Gen Z and instant gratification for a second? Do you guys think political shit happens overnight? Do you think that we build from zero, which is where we were in 2015, to leading the country in less than 10 years? Do you think the trade unionist movement grew in less than 10 fucking years? Do you think the abolitionist movement grew in less than 10 fucking years? Do you think the Republican fascist right took power in less than 10 years? The answer is no. Read a fucking book. Or why are we blaming Gen Z? I never said that. I didn't say I was blaming you. I was saying the instant gratification of our modern era. Sorry for calling out Gen Z. It also applies to millennials and boomers. Shit doesn't just happen because you want it to happen. Stop manifesting and pick up a fucking shovel. There are years when nothing happens and days when years happen. You have completely misunderstood that entire fucking argument. Jesus fucking Christ. The reason why events can happen is because there has been decades of thankless grinding effort to prepare the path. The Bolsheviks didn't win because of spontaneous revolution. They won because they were building up a party and an organization and thought over decades and decades and decades. Lenin himself believed that he was laboring for a future that he would never see. And then events lined up and he was given an opportunity. That is how it works. We are clearing the path and waiting for our opportunity. And there are so many people standing around refusing to pick up a shovel because they think they've realized what the truth is, and they're mad that they're not getting their way right away. Just because you've been convinced doesn't mean society has been constructed to be convinced. And what is so disgusting about the Bad Empanada attack is it's fucking meaningless. It doesn't even make sense. Like, I don't like Matt Duss. But this conversation was supposed to be about Ukraine. What, are we not allowed to talk to him about Ukraine? Also, do we have his Twitter? I want to see what he's actually saying about Gaza now. Like, I know what he said back in 2023, and I disagreed with it completely. But what is he saying now? All right, I searched genocide Matt Duss. We in the Biden administration deserve credit for occasionally tapping the brakes on the genocide we continue to arm to the teeth. I pre-butted this argument, which I've heard from other former officials. I have no time for it, nor should anyone. It's just ass covering. I joined Hassan for a discussion about Gaza, genocide, Palestine, Israel, Zionism, communism, Ukraine, Russia, NATO, and other foreign policy things. Democratic leaders are finally starting to reflect what a majority of Democratic voters believe. The U.S. should arm and fund apartheid and genocide. A former Biden administration official calls this a trend that's extremely disturbing. Okay, listen, I don't like Matt Duss, but here he is posting that it's a genocide and apartheid. I thought that that's what we wanted. Were you guys born knowing that Israel was a genocide and an apartheid? Unmentioned is the Gaza genocide that Tony helped perpetuate, the result of a regional strategy he shamelessly now seeks credit for. Brett Stevens cleverly shows how you could, if you simply ignore all the arguments from genocide scholars about why it's a genocide, you could claim it's not genocide. The Israeli government's plan for Gaza is genocide. A U.S. client state about to launch a war against a fourth country on top of committing an ongoing genocide is what absolute U.S. regional policy failure looks like. Insanity. Help perpetuate a genocide and your colleagues won't have anything bad to say about you. Leave the party, they'll immediately come out of the woodwork to trash you. The city is so fucked up. As I told Zach, while we acknowledge the already large number of experts and organizations that use the term genocide for Israel's war at Gaza, CIA policy not done so until now. The announced Gaza plan clearly meets the definition. So this guy acknowledges that it's a genocide now. Like, that is the reality. And these people were wrong to take so long to do so, but now they are. So the question is, do you welcome people who are now now calling it a genocide, now doing it, who have changed their position, or do you not? I don't know. Will you guys tell me what is the right thing to do? And this isn't somebody who is like unpowerless. This is somebody who is Bernie Sanders' foreign policy advisor. This is somebody who gets his power from the government, not the internet. He spread the lies that got us here. I don't care if he changed his mind once it got popular to do so. That is, ladies and gentlemen, the dumbest argument I've ever heard. I'm sorry, friend. But you've only been here since January 2021. Where were you before the 2020 election? You've only been here 25 months. What were you doing in 2020? I don't want to live in a left that says, no thanks, don't change your mind, don't agree with us. I don't want to live in that left. I don't want to live in a left of cops. I don't want to live. I believe in redemption. I believe in change. And when people change their mind and agree with me and argue with in the way that I want them to, I say thank you. I don't make them leaders, but I say thank you. I don't want to live in a panopticon of 5,000 leftists that are trying to find old comments that people no longer agree with to bring them to their face to discredit anybody who comes along. It'd be one thing if he was denying the genocide now, but what are you doing? What are you actually trying to... Were you born a leftist? I don't want a left that accepts bare minimum and forgives Zionism or other colonial ideologies. You're a dumb fuck. He's not... I'm not... None of us are doing that, dumbass. He's saying what we want him to say, dumb fuck. We're not agreeing with Zionism, dumbass. We didn't give him any concessions, idiot. All right, show me your social media. I want every social media of yours. Give me every social media if you want to stay unbanned. Give me every social media of yours. You've only been following me since 2024. I want your social media, and I want it going back till you turned 18. We're going to do an investigation. Let's go. Post them. We're doing an audit. You better be a red diaper baby. We're doing an audit. You better be a red diaper baby. I better have you better have been calling it a fucking apartheid since whenever you were born. Let's go. Audit time. Dude, chatters are political operatives. Oh, wait. Different standards for different folks. Oh, we're having different standards now. Your ignorance was forgivable. Now, Matt Duss, I don't like Matt Duss because of the power he wielded and his takes. I don't agree with them. But your position is... We don't want people to change their mind on the Israeli genocide. We want to make it so there are zero incentives to change your mind while a genocide is going on. That's what your position is. You're fucking insane. I called Israeli apartheid from when I was a teenager. Is that good enough for you? Yes, let's see your social media. I want to see all your social media. Let's go. We're enacting your program. We're enacting your program. I want your name. I want all your social media. I want everything you've ever posted. We are enacting your program, and we're going to use you. Hurry the fuck up. This is an audit. Don't you get it? We want people with no power to be forgiven and be able to come over to our side, but not people with any pool. Yeah. Don't you understand that there's a genocide going on, and we need liberals to stop supporting it in order to save the Palestinian people, you wretch? The Palestinian people are starving to death, you fucking scum. If it means me having to be nice to a Pod Save America guy, then I'll do it, you fucking wretch. You fucking poser. And why am I angry about this? Because there's a goddamn genocide going on and America's doing it. And you people are trying to pretend like this is a social media posturing game, dumbass. There are starving kids. If somebody calls it a genocide, thank you. Like, what are you doing? All right, so Matt Duss, so here's the context. Matt Duss, former Bernie Sanders political foreign policy advisor, liberal Zionist previously, now calls it a genocide and says Israel is an apartheid, which is what we want, right? We want Bernie Sanders and these and progressives to come in our direction, right? Because the position before the genocide that was predominant in progressive spaces was a two-state solution, liberal Zionism, J Street shit, right? That's what existed prior. See, if you've never been involved in politics, I remember working for somebody who was a J Streeter and me having arguments with them and being like, no, liberal Zionism isn't real. And I was considered fringe. I was the fringe anti-Zionist political operative in 2018. That made me positively radioactive in most of Pennsylvania, by the way. I was the fringe guy. Now I'm not fringe on the internet, but I am still fringe in the fucking political spaces that actually make decisions. I think people here Zionists should even be allowed to be dog catcher. I think that applies to their entire past history, regardless of what they believe now. Here's what I believe. If Matt Duss was running for office against somebody else who was a even more passionately pro-Palestine, I would support that person over Matt Duss. If there were 30 people running and Matt Duss was one of them and I was deciding who I was going to put my money and effort behind, it wouldn't be Matt Duss. Unless he came out with a platform on Israel that was fully confrontational. We ran into this problem with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, where they had made some bad votes on the Iron Dome before October 7th, but then they changed their mind and became more anti-Zionist. And then a lot of people were like, well, you made old bad votes. We're not going to support you. And then they lost to people who were supported by AIPAC, who are Benjamin Netanyahu supporters. And what is the fucking point of that? What is the goal of that? People come in our direction and we punish them? We do moral grandstanding? Can we talk about the contradiction of the left? The left that's supposed to be, wants to abolish prisons, wants to defund the police, wants to believe in restorative justice for murderers, right? That's our plan. That's our program. But then we're going to do this? When somebody changes their mind in the direction we want, we're going to do this? We're going to act like they can't and they're not allowed to? That's the plan? Do you want people to change or do you not want people to change? Do you want the Bernie Sanders to become better on Israel or do you not? My gripe is that Duss spread the beheaded babies nonsense. We could find other people call it a genocide now. Yes, that was nonsense. That was wrong. I was one of the few people that was against it from the beginning. I was one of the few people tanking accusations of anti-Semitism. Have you been called an anti-Semite? Have you had your livelihood threatened because of your pro-Palestinian takes? Have you done that? Hassan is under constant death threats. Hassan is under the supervision of the fucking federal government over Israel, over the ADL. He has some of the most dangerous Zionists in the world targeting him for death. Is that you? Well, I'm just a small bean. Now, I don't like Matt Duss. I've said this from the beginning. I don't like Matt Duss. I think his takes are bad, but that's not the nature of the criticism. The criticism is that Hassan is a liberal Zionist. The criticism isn't Matt Duss made posts that Hassan and I have led the way arguing against. I was saying that the number of civilians killed on October 7th was overrated in October of 2023. I was saying that the Israeli helicopters shot up the Nova Festival in October of 2023. I was saying the beheaded babies was a hoax in October of 2023. I was saying that there was no systemic rapes by Hamas in October of 2023. So I don't want to hear that we're doing liberal Zionism. I have been arguing for a one-state solution since October, before that. I've been talking about Gaza on this stream since 2019, the very first month of this stream. We did a deep dive into the apartheid in Israel by reading the Amnesty International report. Maybe that wasn't 2029. Where was that Amnesty International report on Israeli apartheid? I did a deep dive. Okay, when it came out in February 2022, I read this and we did a deep dive on stream. Like, what are we talking about here? What we're talking about is Hassan is a liberal Zionist, and anybody who works with Hassan is a liberal Zionist. That is the argument. Let's watch the video. And why am I fired up about this? Because this is lies. I don't know what else to say. It's lies. And it's also platforming. It's 2025. Donald Trump is president of the United States. They're denying Palestinian amputees access to medical care in America on the orders of Laura Loomer. Palestinian advocates are getting their green card stripped. They're getting deported. We have $175 billion for Gestapo ICE to patrol our streets. What are we talking about? And I don't have time because a 500 viewer streamer wants to throw shit on the people that have been fighting for this stuff for almost 10 years on these internet spaces where being a leftist is completely invisible. This is you 4 years ago on Israeli apartheid.
Let's maul in the Central Committee. Let's cringe.
603 views on this video, by the way.
Central Committee. Let's maul in the Central Committee right now.
Look at this all unbiased because I have a connection with Israel. To reclaim property, but not Palestinians, is apartheid. That is the fact that the different people, based purely on their identity, their racial or national identity, have different rights under the law. That's right there, apartheid. That is not a democracy. That is not a liberal democracy. That is apartheid. That prima facie is apartheid.
And I mean, like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? All right, let's watch this video.
So Hassan Piker invited liberal Zionist propagandist Matt Duss onto his stream for a nice chat. Why Bernie's foreign policy advisor broke with DC Democrats. He even uploaded it to his channel. He never uploaded his talk with me to his channel. So this guy is Bernie's foreign policy advisor, or ever was Bernie's foreign policy advisor. Should probably ring alarm bells as to what Bernie Sanders always has been for anyone who hasn't noticed that yet. But let's look at some of Matt Duss's openly extolled stances. Matt Duss in 2016 said that he endorses a piece that said that the anti-Israel left is pure anti-Semitism. He actually wrote a piece December 14th, 2023, while the genocide was ongoing. I remind you, at this time, I already made my video making the legal case against Israel for genocide in Gaza, saying that Israel's methods are not as extreme as Russia's, and it's very important to acknowledge that. At that point, Israel had already killed more civilians in Gaza than Russia had killed in Ukraine during the entire war. He called Palestinian resistance.
Okay, this is what he said during the interview, which is this is supposedly what it's about.
Undeniable reality of genocide. Clean this up. Pete may be making this decision because he's sensing a change in the weather, but that change in the weather is what's very important here. Result of not only of the inescapable, undeniable reality of genocide, but a movement that has been working very hard for many years to be able to kind of to apply pressure from the left.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So Matt, in the interview, 6 minutes in, says that there is undeniable starvation and genocide, and it's because of the movement from the left that has changed people's positions on that. Right off the bat. Okay, listen. Did Matt Duss say stupid shit 10 years ago? Yes. But the idea that he was on Hassan's stream denying genocide or spreading propaganda is not the case. And yeah, I mean, it really comes down to this. Do you think it's good for people to change their mind or not? Is that your goal or not? Do you want people to say, wow, I was wrong about this and now I say it's a genocide, or not? What is your goal? My goal is to make people that deny the genocide recognize it's a genocide and do something to stop it right now. That's my goal. My goal is not to hand out penance to all the sinners. Is that your goal? Now, we're gonna. If there are more clips from where he made mistakes during the interview, and I want to see what the quote is, send me a link. I want to see what Matt Duss said, and I want to see what Hassan says in response. That's criticism. That's real criticism. Real criticism is this is what happened in that interview, and this is what Hassan said. Like, I wish he would have been able to hit him harder, but like, if he didn't know the full extent of Matt's beliefs before, well, Matt was saying during the interview that it's apartheid and genocide and starvation.
A far-right theocratic organization committing mass murder in the name of blood and soil nationalism. That is how this guy characterized.
He looks like Vosh, red flag. Like, well, that's the example of what I'm talking about. You're doing the aesthetics of criticism.
A far-right theocratic organization committing mass murder in the name of blood and soil nationalism. That is how this guy characterized.
He looks like Vosh, red flag. Like, well, that's the example of what I'm talking about. You're doing the aesthetics of criticism, right? But you're not doing actual criticism. You're not actually saying anything that is of value. Haha, funny. He kind of looks like Vosh. He's a fat white guy with a beard and glasses. Got him. That's not criticism.
Palestinian resistance. And he spread the mass rape hoax. In December 2023, he said, denying the rape and sexual violence that Hamas committed on October 7th is disgusting. And then, he did a token thing. So he's using that to excuse the humanitarian catastrophe Israel is intentionally inflicting on the Palestinians. This is pure liberal Zionist bullshit. This is the...
Now, personally, I disagree with this argument. And I said it from the beginning that I didn't see any evidence of systematic rape. But I believe that there are instances of sexualized violence that may have happened on October 7th because that's the nature of war. Every army and every militant group in history will have instances like that. But like, this is your best example of how Matt Duss is terrible, is from 2023? I mean, honestly, is anybody saying, I know for a fact that there was never a single instance of sexualized violence ever? Like, why would you say that? You can't prove that. What if something what if something emerges? Then you will be discredited. Like, what are you talking about?
Ethan Klein stance. Then he said, in May 2024, well after the mass rape hoax was fully debunked, so no excuse anymore. There was never an excuse in the first place for believing it, given that there was no evidence, but now there's certainly no excuse. Very much worth noting that the ICC includes rape and other acts of sexual violence in the list of Hamas offenses. It's very clear that these things happen, and it's ridiculous that some continue to deny it. Very confident there, isn't he? May 2024, this guy was saying this shit. There could be like a world in which you invite this guy on, but you invite him on to destroy him. You invite him on to challenge him on this stuff.
Okay, so Adepanada's main problem with Matt Duss is a tweet from 2016, an immediate reaction days after October 7th, right? And then a couple of posts about him saying, hey, we shouldn't just blanket deny sexual violence happened. Not that Hamas did mass rapes as a systemic thing. Not that it justified Israel's attacking. Like, these are, I mean, this is it? I don't agree with this. I don't think there is strong evidence that rapes occurred on October 7th. I think there is some evidence that there was sexualized violence against hostages, or maybe even on October 7th, but not necessarily, but definitely not systemic, definitely not to the extent Israel said. But this is it? You want Hassan-Duss to be screaming about how no rapes happened with no firsthand knowledge? I mean, I'm sorry, but like, what the fuck? This is Biden's political advisor? No, he wasn't. He was Bernie Sanders' political advisor.
Nicely either, to really grill the fuck out of him and ruin him forever. So that's what you should do with people like this. You invite him on. Your first question is, so you claim that Hamas did mass rape on October 7th. So
where did he say that? Where did he say that? None of these tweets say that Hassan-Duss says, wait, he didn't say that. As far as I know. Wait, did he say that somewhere else? Denying that rape and sexual violence that Hamas committed on October 7th is disgusting. He didn't say mass rape. He didn't say mass rape. He said that it was disgusting to deny sexual violence and rape occurred. Do we absolutely 100% know that there was no sexual violence? As far as I know, there's no accusations that have been credited of rape on October 7th. But this is from 2023. I think there are some accusations of sexualized violence, especially of hostages. So you're saying that if anybody ever took claims of sexual violence seriously, that they're a genocidal Zionist forever? He didn't say mass rape. He said that's not what he said. Am I wrong? Adam Panada just made something up.
It's very clear that these things happen, and it's ridiculous that some continue to deny it. Very confident there, isn't he? May 2024, this guy was saying this shit. There could be like a world in which you invite this guy on, but you invite him on to destroy him. You invite him on to challenge him on this stuff. Not nicely either, to really grill the fuck out of him and ruin him.
Does Adam Panada think that it's good optics for the pro-Palestine movement to grill people over whether or not rapes occurred on October 7th or not, and like have a big fight about accusations of sexual violence against Hamas from October 7th? Is that, he thinks that's good optics for the fucking pro-Palestinian movement in this moment? We should be screaming about whether or not we think sexual violence occurred. What?
Forever. So that's what you should do with people like this. You invite him on. Your first question is, so you claim that Hamas did mass rape on October 7th. So
where did he claim it? Where did he claim Hamas did mass rape? Maybe he did somewhere else, but it's not in these tweets.
Why have you never provided any evidence of that, even though you've consistently spread this genocide-enabling blood libel from the very beginning? Hey, why don't you say that Palestinian liberation is blood and soil nationalism? You pin them on this live and you get them stuttering. You debunk their entire narrative. That's the utility that these guys have. They are tools to be used. You destroy them, you upload the video of it, and then you just fucking forget about them. That's not what Hassan did here. He gave him a softball interview and promoted him. It's important to note that people like this, he's trying to break into alternative media, because someone like this is no longer of much use to the Washington D.C. sort of think tank industrial complex and political advisor complex.
I mean, and this is where Bad and Panada's analysis is really impoverished, which is he knows absolutely nothing about American politics in particular. Which is, I don't watch him for his political analysis takes. I watched him for his history posts and his dives on theory, on analyzing claims against Xinjiang and analyzing historical claims about the Hollow Door. That's what Bad and Panada is good. But knowing how the DC think tank circuit works, ain't it? Bro, did you miss? I mean, I know he's anti-Zoran, but in the New York City mayor's race, Brad Lander, a liberal Zionist, endorsed Zoran and protected him against false claims against anti-Semitism. Now, Zoran is a BDS practitioner, anti-Zionist politician, which is incredibly rare in America and unfortunately pretty rare in Argentina now too, and extremely rare in Australia too. But that is the reality, is that there are plenty of liberal Zionists who are now recognizing Israel's genocide. My goal is to get a coalition, a popular front in America to stop supporting Israel militarily and to force humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza and to push for the recognition of a Palestinian state so that they can be, end the occupation permanently. He's anti-Zoran? Yes, he is. He's anti-Zoran. Like, of course he is.
TV, and he's like, I understand this hurts the Zionist Jewish feelings too much, and I'm going to stop saying globalize the Intifada, something that I never fucking said before anyway, rather than sticking to my opinions and helping to push back against these fake anti-Semitic beat-up bullshit to the point where this stuff has no more power anymore. He concedes on all their bullshit immediately. If he's doing this already, he's going to be even worse than AOC is now in 5 years.
So I don't know if this is just he doesn't study politics at all, but specifically, we already tried, like we had this example of why you have to protect against accusations of anti-Semitism with Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, strong anti-imperialist, strong on social issues, but everybody called him an anti-Semitic terrorist supporter, and he was smeared successfully. I mean, if you're anti-Zoran, even though Zoran campaigned on BDS, Zoran argued against political Zionism. Zoran has not run away from any of his positions. He didn't say globalize the Intifada, but he defended those that said it and said that he wasn't going to police their language. In the city that has the largest Jewish population in the world, there's more Jewish people in New York than there is in Tel Aviv. And he ran an anti-Zionist platform. And that's AOC 2, whatever that means.
That he has mostly been involved in for his entire adult life. But this guy, you kind of have to consider that he's like in this sort of in-between thing where he was like a Bernie Sanders advisor.
Wanting America to fail as an anti-imperialist position, you should all be balkanizing instead of being complicit in the destruction of the world for the glory of capital. Here's why you're dumb as fuck, which is you think that America is close to collapse when it is not. And you lack materialism. America is not close to collapse. It's close to fascism, dummy. America has 2,000 nuclear fucking warheads. We have 14 aircraft carrier battle groups. We have the most fresh water of any country in the world outside of Canada. We have abundant arable land. We have extremely rich minerals of all sorts. The United States of America has 350 million people. We are not going to collapse. We're not going to fall apart. You're just stupid. The only question is whether we have socialism or barbarism. And America under Trump is going to be enacting that barbarism on you. Don't you see the Europeans folding right now and bowing down to Trump? Like, what are you like? You're in a fantasy land. You're in third worldist fantasy land. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And this is baby brain. This is fantasizing. This is Hoi 4 brain. This is paradox gaming brain. What you want from the United States is for it to turn isolationist and inward and focused on its own structural development like China does. You want America to be building high-speed rail instead of more aircraft carriers. You should be wanting America to have a foreign policy that is pulling troops back. You think America facing some sort of collapse? We have the world reserve currency. We control the banking sector. People can't even sell oil between two other countries without using dollars. Like, what are you talking about? You're in fantasy land. This is anti-materialist, and it is, I don't know if you're coping or what. And the United States of America would not just stay in some sort of balkanized civil war. We would be turning our aggression against our neighbors. You want Canada invaded? You want Mexico invaded? You want European countries invaded? What the fuck are you talking about? Fantasizing ass piece of shit. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
So he's going to be like too progressive for the mainstream Democrats, but he's also too pro-Israel for anyone who's like someone posturing, someone who's on the cusp of being consumed by the Democratic Party, entryism.
So basically, Baden Panada's entire political analysis is nonsensical. Liberal Zionism, like the idea that Matt Duss is like going to be too far to the right for Democrats is funny as fuck. That's funny as fuck. I'm sorry, that is so fucking funny, dude. Holy shit.
Complex. There's not really much of a home for someone like him. He's not needed by the mainstream Democrats. He's not even needed by people like Bernie Sanders anymore, who have gone like full mask off Zionists at this point. So he needs an alternative income stream. He needs a safety net. And his way of doing that is making a podcast. So he's trying to leverage his...
Okay, what is the Matt Duss podcast? By the way, he's just wrong. If Matt Duss wants to like get a job, he'll get a job with Zateo or something. Like, it's Bernie Sanders' former foreign policy advisor. He'll get a job with Zateo or The Intercept or Drop Site News or whatever the fuck else. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, man. He doesn't need Hassan. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? The idea is that Hassan is like propping this guy up and he would just be totally fucked without Hassan.
Disgusting career as a like Washington DC foreign policy genocider to sort of get out of that inorganic sphere where you are propped up by people with lots of money and lots of interest in genociding people in the third world for money. He's trying to get out of that by making a podcast called the Undiplomatic Podcast. And you can see they don't really get many views. This podcast is something that no one cares about. And they immediately uploaded the like Hassan Piker talk highlights to their podcast channel. It's like the best thing that's ever happened to them. They got fucking Hassan Piker, you know, like this big streamer, big up-and-coming, soon-to-be mainstream media personality onto their podcast. And they're ecstatic. They are so happy about it.
Oh, this is the part that really pissed me off. And we're going to get into this more. The idea that Hassan is a mainstream media personality is so far from the truth that it might as well just be an outright lie.
This. It's the best thing that ever could have happened to their podcast. It already has like 10 times more views than they usually get. So this is just irresponsible from Hassan Piker here. He did not challenge this guy. This was not.
Didn't the dude say it was genocide? Yeah, we just watched a clip. He said it was a genocide almost right at the beginning of the interview. He said it was a genocide almost right away.
Absolutely.
Not only of the inescapable, undeniable reality of genocide, but a movement that has been working very hard for many years to be able to kind of, to apply pressure from the left.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So Duss said to start the conversation that it's undeniable starvation and genocide right off the bat. Okay. So what are you supposed to go? But didn't you in 2023 say that there was sexual crimes committed by Hamas on October 7th? Don't you feel bad for spreading that genocidal propaganda? Like, that's what you want?
Significantly worse. Because at least she was pretending to care about this shit before. He said he's going...
That's what I'm saying. That's exact, but that's not even true. Like, he said that he spread the mass rape hoax, but as far as I saw, he didn't provide any evidence that Matt Duss did this. He didn't actually show a tweet of Matt Duss saying they committed mass rapes.
An adversarial interview. It's not inviting someone on to rightfully destroy them. It's inviting
Okay. So here's the question, chat, and you tell me what you think. Do you think that if somebody changes their position to Israel is doing a genocide and Israel is doing starvation, that we should be hostile to them, or should we be friendly to that? Should we be hostile to that, or should we be friendly to that? You tell me. Should we be receptive to it, or should we be against it? Bada Panada and Z Squirrel don't have the political acumen to lead anything. They're good at research and history, yes, but they're too angry and angsty to make any real... By the way, I like angry. I like angsty. But I also believe that we should be connected to actual political movements. Right now, the reason why the Palestinian people are at the brink of starvation is because you and I and every leftist around the world has failed. That's the reality. We are to blame. We are to fucking blame. Our societies, if you're in any Western country, short of like Ireland and maybe Spain, other than that, we are all responsible for this genocide. 100,000 quadrillion %. If you're in Argentina, you're especially responsible. If you're in Australia, you're especially responsible. What makes you any better?
Someone on to promote them. That's what this was. It gets worse with this guy as well, by the way. I haven't even shown you what I think is the worst thing, which is not this. This is pretty bad, though. Like, I was just looking through his tweets for anything on Israel, and he's like, this is a tweet from August 2024, in which he said, I know folks who previously served in the IDF who I'd be thrilled to have in the White House. This is someone who Hassan Piker invited onto his stream to give him a nice little boost. Here is Matt Duss going on Democracy Now!, arguing against the ceasefire in Gaza and justifying Bernie Sanders' anti-ceasefire position. Hassan Piker's latest interviewee, folks.
Matt, you...
All right, listen, I hate the IDF more than anyone, but that is more of like, he knows somebody who previously served the IDF. Maybe they regret it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? That's not actually a point.
worked for Senator Sanders. She pushed him on a ceasefire.
Okay.
He said he was for a pause, but wouldn't go so far as a ceasefire. Your thoughts?
No, I think the senator has been one of the strongest voices for a cessation of violence.
By the way, this is from November of 2023. They've changed their positions. I was calling for a ceasefire now and immediately, but it took Bernie Sanders a couple months to agree to that demand and call for ending weapons to Israel. And I'm mad at Bernie Sanders. I'm one of the main people who criticize Bernie Sanders on that. But like, you're looking at old positions. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? What are we trying to do here?
For stopping the bombing. These are the words.
I loved when Hassan brought up a clip yesterday of Badapadada supporting Bernie Sanders' foreign policy on Israel that Matt Duss wrote. Wait, what? If you want to send me that link.
He used in his speech on the floor of the Senate a couple of weeks ago. He has been one of the strongest voices in the country.
I want to be clear as you listen to this. Remember that this is someone who Hassan Piker chose to help with his entry into the alternative media.
Can you like, I'm sorry, chat, but if you're going to criticize the platforming, maybe you should criticize the interview itself rather than doing like what amounts to opposition research on somebody who had positions he no longer agrees with and going like, haha, you used to believe this. Now you believe it's a genocide. Haha. And that means that Hassan now is therefore bad. Because the guy publicly says on Hassan's platform that it's starvation and genocide, which is what we want, which means that this guy has capitulated to us. But now what we're going to do is attack Hassan and his platform by going to this guy's past takes, which he no longer agrees with, to attack Hassan. Like, it'd be one thing if he was still denying the genocide. But on the video, on the interview, he said it was starvation and genocide and Israel's apartheid.
Sphere. This guy is looking for an exit ramp from his career justifying Zionist atrocities, and Hassan Piker helped him with that. He's realizing that the palatability.
What is you always make sure you link directly to the thing.
Because generally these sorts of centre-left leaders who aren't even that radical are forced to regulate themselves a whole lot to avoid. And that's pretty important because generally these sorts of centre-left leaders who aren't even that radical are forced to not letting hack journalists bait him into making it some sort of partisan thing where Evo Morales was a dictator. He also regularly expresses at least some degree of solidarity with some of these centre-left leaders of the third world, like Lula in Brazil. And that's pretty important because generally these sorts of centre-left leaders who aren't even that radical are forced to regulate themselves a whole lot to avoid just sort of annoying the USA and being denounced like they're the return of the USSR on the USA's doorstep or whatever. Something that a lot of people miss is that the USA's primary influence worldwide is actually not so much through its direct interventions and espionage and such, but rather through its economic and diplomatic influence. The USA simply taking a negative or even neutral stance towards a country can have some pretty devastating economic and diplomatic effects. Because the US is the world's biggest economy, controls the world's most important currency, and basically every government in the world is forced to engage with the US financially. For example, even though Venezuela and the USA are basically enemies at this point, the US government has pervasive control over the Venezuelan government's assets because so much of them are in the USA and it's pretty much unavoidable. And that's without even getting into how the USA can throw its weight around to get other countries that suck up to it to denounce and ruin that.
Okay, so Matt Duss wrote this tweet saying the United States can bring unequal leadership to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We must use that leadership to promote a just and durable agreement. Any acceptable peace deal must be consistent with international law and multiple UN resolutions. It must end the Israeli occupation and enable Palestinian self-determination in an independent state of their own alongside a secure Israel. Trump's so-called peace deal doesn't even come close. It will only perpetuate the conflict. It is unacceptable. Now, this is liberal Zionist two-statism. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I can't believe Baden Panada was pushing liberal state, two-state Zionism. Like, what the fuck? This guy's supposed to, he wants to be your anti-Zionist leader. See what I mean, chat? This is just bullshit. I don't even want to say it because it's dumb. I can't believe Baden Panada is a liberal Zionist. Like, come on. Obviously, that's silly. And the reason why, and here's the thing, chat. I don't even like Matt Duss. I want to make this very clear. If anybody tries to suggest I like Matt Duss or agree with him, I do not. I don't like Matt Duss. I think he sucks. I think he's like one of Bernie Sanders' worst advisors. I don't like Matt Duss. But his conversation about Ukraine, and then he says it's a genocide on Israel. He has changed his positions. He says Israel is committing a genocide on the Palestinian people. It is weird to then try to go out of your way to attack Hassan and pretend like he's platforming a Nazi or something, when the guy said during the interview that Israel is starving the Palestinians and committing genocide, which is what we want people to say. You have Bernie Sanders, former foreign policy advisor, coming on Hassan's show to agree that Hassan was right. Do you think that makes our position worse or better? Do you think that makes it more persuasive for normies or less persuasive to normies?
Of what he offers these Democratic Party genociders is going down. He's not going to have his job forever, and his like podcast sort of thing is a way to get
wrong, dead fucking wrong, made up. By the way, he's just making shit up. This is just made up. I want you to understand that the main thesis of Bad Empanada statement is that Matt Duss has been thrown out of DC because of his liberal Zionism and is desperately trying to get a job in alt media because without it, he'll starve and he'll be homeless. That is Bad Empanada's argument.
Himself an off-ramp from this career, which isn't going to be viable forever. And here he is fucking advocating against the fucking ceasefire of all things.
Raising the issue of the Palestinians who are dying, and even
Jackass, you're back with your newest schizo account.
Before October 7, he was one of the strongest voices pressing the U.S. government to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
This is liberal Zionism par excellence. I can't fucking believe that you could platform this without calling it out.
So I understand there are some of my colleagues on the left who've been pushing for, to use the word ceasefire. I get that. I think what the senator said there about the challenges of a ceasefire being negotiated with an organization like Hamas are valid. Where my focus is, and I think...
Amazing. Okay. In an interview, Matt Duss leveraged his supposed Ukrainian...
By the way, he's on Democracy Now! In there. I don't know if you saw the Chiron, but he had like 5 different major posts in foreign policy. The idea that he's relying on Hassan is one of the most comically stupid points I've ever seen made. Like, come on, man. Like, what are you even trying to do? It's like, it's slop tube, man. I mean, like... we have our own slop tube. He's doing slop tube right now. He's doing drama. He's doing a call-out video of Hassan, and it doesn't even make sense on its face.
American identity to say that Israel has the right and responsibility to defend its people. He also goes on fucking Bill Maher. This happened in June 2024. This fucker went on Bill Maher, and as Bill Maher did like blood libel genocide propaganda, painting all Palestinians as pedophiles, this guy sat there smirking and nodding. I want you to know that. I want you to know this is who Hassan Piker decided to platform and boost. And I want to say to Matt Duss, if you're watching this, I hope you are, my friend, you're never going to be allowed to have a career outside of what you're doing. We're never going to let you in. If you ever try, we will be there. Not just me, but also others. Don't even fucking...
Like, I honestly, I totally get this. I get the energy. I get the energy of wanting to hold Zionists accountable and wanting to hold people accountable who supported this genocide. But you need to hold your own country accountable, which is like your president is literally endorsing Netanyahu right now. Like, this isn't Bernie Sanders foreign policy advisor. It's all of us. I think it's a way of shifting blame. I think it really is a way of shifting blame off of ourselves and the guilt that you should feel by yelling at someone who is saying what you want them to say now. Does BE support Melee? No, he doesn't support Melee, but he lives in Argentina. Donald Trump is my president. My president supports Israel's genocide. That's my fucking reality. My tax dollars go and fund this genocide. I am tainted by this genocide. It doesn't matter that I was there on day 1 protesting it, saying it was a genocide, organizing others. Day fucking 1, I was part of it. And like, I think it's like it's a power fantasy, and we're all engaged in it. We're gonna bully Matt Duss because he's one of the few people that actually cares about what the left is saying. We're gonna chase Matt Duss around while Laura Loomer, as we speak, is denying Palestinian children, amputees, visas to come into our country for medical treatment. That's what's happening. That's what the American government is doing. We're focusing on a guy who calls it a genocide and says it's starvation and is changing his position to the position we want him to hold, and so that we can attack Hassan. We're going to use Matt Duss's old positions to attack Hassan right now. That's called a circular firing squad. It's called, we are now engaged in what amounts to deorganizing effort, because you and I are so frustrated. We're so impotent to enact change that we're now trying to enact change in our own movement by dissolving it, by ripping it apart with infighting, so that we feel like we're doing something. That's what this impulse is. When facing utter defeat, which is what we're at, that's where we are right now. I'm not trying to be a doomer. I'm being a pragmatist. I'm being honest. I'm being a realist. We are facing an existential threat of oppression, of prescription of our ideas, of deplatforming. Our very lives and the safety of our loved ones is under threat. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that Hassan is a liberal Zionist. That's what we're doing. We have a concentration camp in Florida called Alligator Alcatraz that isn't even being talked about anymore.
Don't even try. Just stick to doing what you know. Justifying genocide for Zionism. You know, do a hard right turn. Become a Republican advisor or some shit. Those are your realistic options, not this. We're not going to let you do it.
People of Gaza, by the way, if the Israelis did get rid of Hamas, they'd be doing a giant favor to the people of Gaza who hate Hamas still.
He's nodding along with that, by the way. This is him on the left, this Vosh thing. He's a lot worse than the real Vosh, by the way. I think advocating for the genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza, as he did, in a very official role as well, is worse than consuming drawn child porn, as Vosh did. Unequivocally. He's worse. This Vosh lookalike is worse than the actual Vosh.
Mike, you're ignoring long-term community members who are being good faith. You're being irrational and letting your negative emotions cloud your judgment. There's not one argument in that sentence. And also, you're not a long-term community member. Shut the fuck up. I determine who's long-term and who's not.
But let's just go through the lists. Because Israeli...
Make a fucking argument.
Look like us in most ways, value.
The Israelis look like us. Oh my fucking God. He's sitting next to this guy as he says this.
He's wise. Maybe we're not doing it the right way. I don't know. Religious tolerance. That doesn't exist in Gaza. You're either Muslim or an infidel, and you better be a Muslim.
Thank God this guy who just sits there, as he said, and nods along to it, was platformed by Hassan Piker and given...
I mean, this is really just a disagreement over whether you should scream at Bill Maher's face. I think you should. I don't even disagree with Bada Padada. It's why I don't get invited to CNN. There's a reason why I never get invited to any of these shows. It's not because I don't have contacts. It's not because I'm not known. It's because I'm not civil. And this is really the disagreement that Bada Padada doesn't think it's worth having anybody who agrees with us on any mainstream media position. That being said, I couldn't go into a same room with Bill Maher. I would beat his fucking ass. You know, like, I'm sorry, Bill Maher is a genocidal maniac. I would never go on his show. I think Matt Duss going on a show is pathetic fucking shit. This is a good criticism of Matt Duss. Period.
An opportunity to rebrand. Now that genocide is too obvious and the tides are turning against his previous positions. Something that, I will note, Hassan recently went on Noah's stream and watched one of my videos warning against. Literally like a week before he did this, he watched a video that I made saying, don't let these people do this, and he's letting this guy do it.
Female freedom, free and fair elections, free speech, gay rights. Can I just finish my list of pedophilia? I'll put that under don't ask. Child brides and so forth. Equality of the sexes, I'll categorize that under don't make me fucking laugh. The fact that, you know, these people think that this is where they should be aligned with, that these are the values that you support.
I love Matt Duss. I'm glad that this is the guy who Hassan Piker is giving an out from his soulless consulting career in Washington D.C. This is the guy who is giving an out into like building a potential audience.
The problem with Bada Padada's video is it doesn't actually show where Hassan promoted liberal Zionism, other than, hey, we have a clip where he sat next to Bill Maher, a Zionist, saying shit, and in the clip doesn't scream and yell at him, which I want to do, but that's not something Matt said. Like, It's a television program. Like what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Can you actually show something that Hassan said or was said on his platform? Can we get a single clip from the actual interview? The only clip that I have is Matt Duss calling it a genocide.
In the alternative media space by getting platformed by, no exaggeration, probably the biggest streamer who could, the biggest guy who could give you a shout out in this space. Because what this guy is doing is just a rebranding. It's a rebranding. He sees the tides turning when he helped this happen in the first place. He helped legitimize it, and he's trying to save himself. We can't let that happen. This guy spent, the first 30 years of his life, at least, pro-Israel, Zionist, October 7th.
Badapanada is saying it's bad to platform a guy who did genocide propaganda is trying to rebrand. I agree with that. Okay. I'm going to be completely honest with you. You have internet creator brain. You have internet brain. I'm going to be dead honest with you, is that you have the brain of somebody who watches internet content, and you have content streamer brain. You don't have an actual functioning political cortex. Matt Duss is currently an executive director of a major fucking Washington, D.C. foreign policy think tank for progressives. He's Bernie Sanders' former foreign policy advisor. He was on the Carnegie Endowment for Peace. He is not a fucking podcaster. He's not Nick Fuentes. He's not trying to rebrand. He changed his position on genocide. He's not a small bean guy. He's not some guy who needs Hassan's clout. He's not a podcaster from Argentina. Like, what are we talking about? The fact that he went on the stream with Hassan is a sign that we are gaining influence. This is what I'm talking about. The fact that somebody like Hassan is getting GQ. This is the thing that we're going to talk about, because he's going to attack Hassan for getting a GQ thing next. And this is where the bad empanada analysis is utterly hilariously bad. We're going to talk to people. If you do a political show, you're going to talk to people who disagree with you if you have interviews. If you have interviews on your show, if you bring people on your show, you're going to have people who disagree with you if you are a left-winger like Hassan or myself. I brought on a guy who wrote about alt-right conspiracy theories and QAnon. That guy is way to my right on politics. Does that mean I endorse everything he ever said? What is this standard? This is not a standard that's workable. All you could do is show what's on your fucking show and what is argued by your show. You cannot be responsible for everything that the person has said prior to your show. And I don't think showing a position that somebody no longer holds is a good way to do politics, unless they're trying to assert themselves as a leader.
What happens, he justifies the genocide. He attacks, Palestinian resistance for it. He spreads blood libel, mass rape, stuff like that. And
Which
then
he did not prove. He did not prove. He had a tweet where Matt Duss said it's disgusting to deny that rape or sexual violence occurred. He didn't say that Hamas did mass rape. He just said that. Now, you could say that saying that sexual violence occurred on October 7th is giving aid and comfort to Zionist propaganda. And I have always worked extra hard to try to avoid doing that. But he didn't say mass rape. He did not say that, as far as I know.
2 years later, he sees the tide turning. He's like, oh no, this is actually really bad. Zionism is bad. Shock, horror. Time to break with the DC establishment or whatever. And you just let him do that. And you're like, oh, come on, but he's changed or whatever. We don't have an obligation to let these people keep having fucking media careers. We don't have an obligation to let them keep being talking heads that we have to listen to. Like, you advocate for Zionism for 30 years and you spend like the first 2 years of a genocide justifying it. If you're true.
This is what I don't understand. 5 years ago, Bad Empanada was saying that this was good. When did Bad Empanada decide to change his mind, where if somebody says, if they support Palestinian rights but not as left-wing as me, that they're now bad? Like 5 years ago, he used to say the rest of the world endorses Bernie Sanders for president. So like he changed his position. I don't understand why other people can't change their position.
Truly repentant for that, go work in fucking McDonald's like a normal person. Get the job application going. Go work in the mines to provide restitution. Go help rebuilding Gaza as a manual laborer. This idea that we need to forgive people because they came around late or whatever, and what forgive means in these cases is like let them have a career as a
There's not new info in 2025 that makes it a genocide. It was a genocide before October 7th. Okay, first of all, I want to call this specifically out, which is I agree with you. However, 99% of people did not agree with us. If I tried to hold you all to having my positions, none of you would be here. If I wouldn't tolerate anybody who wasn't a left-winger, there would be 50 people in this chat. If I was like, if you guys were as left-wing as me on Israel in 2014, you have to leave, you're a right-winger, no one would be here.
Fucking political commentator or whatever still. No. If you want to be forgiven, first thing that needs to happen is that you renounce everything that you've ever done and do something else with your life.
Matt Panada said he wants Matt Duss to keep being a Zionist propagandist and even go on Fox News. It feels like an inverse contrapoints where he sees as a doom cause and the purpose is just morally posture. I mean, like, the problem with the third worldist argument is that, I don't know if you noticed, but no one is riding to the Palestinians' rescue. There isn't a big rebellion on the Arab street. There isn't Arab Spring 2, right? There is the Houthis, and there is some minor support from Iran. But other than that, there isn't some big uprising to defend the Palestinian people from genocide. Everybody is locked into American hegemonic logic. And so if we want this genocide to stop, then it has to come by the direction of the hegemon, which is the United States of America. China's not doing anything. No one is intervening. I don't want to give up on the Palestinian people. And if it means I have to tolerate people changing their minds in America who had bad takes before, so be it. If Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to call it a genocide and write legislation to stop giving money to Israel, I'll vote for her on that issue. And I'll vote for her bill, not for Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a disgusting scumbag. But you know what I mean? I mean, if I was in Congress, I would vote for her bill to stop giving money to Israel. I would ally with any person who is trying to stop the Israeli genocide about the Israeli genocide only. It's called building a coalition. Like, and if that means liberal Zionists who denied it was a genocide for a year, but then changed their position, I will ally with them if it stops the genocide now. The Palestinian people don't care if the people that are changing their minds used to be pieces of shit. They need food. They need medical care. They need physical security. They need the bombs to stop flowing. I'll go and get revenge and justice after we stop the act of genocide.
This is not someone who should ever be given forgiveness. You can't just reward this stuff. You can't let these people rebrand and let them get away with what they did, because they'll do it again next time. So they watched my video where I was talking about how these people are going to try to rebrand. And then Hassan invites someone on who is actively attempting.
I think that Baden Panada is like, I wish he could come to America and had any kind of sense of reality that wasn't mediated through the internet. Because I don't know why he thinks that like the pro-Palestinian movement is so powerful that we're going to be able to walk around and exclude people who are liberal Zionists. What are you talking about? We are hanging on by a thread. They're drawing up lists. They're firing us from jobs and expelling us from schools and deporting us and putting people in camps. What are you talking about?
Do a rebrand right now.
Career. And I think with a lot of these people that are going to change their mind and try to reposition, we got to remember, we got to keep a very close record of what they said while it was happening and not let them do that. They'll try, but there should be a continuous effort to say, no.
Hassan agreed.
On October 10th, you started justifying what Israel is doing. You started weaponizing your identity to run cover for Israel and blame everything Israel's doing on Hamas, which is exactly what Israel is doing.
Or college protesters.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what you were.
Okay, can we get this clip? I feel like this is stripped of content. I'm pretty sure they were talking about politicians for leadership in the Democratic Party, right? Like, we don't want... They were talking about Pete Buttigieg, right? They were talking about politicians who are trying to, like... who are big propagandists for Israel, trying to keep control of the Democratic Party. This is about who do we choose to lead us in the future. We shouldn't pick Matt Duss. We shouldn't pick Pete Buttigieg or Pod Save America guys. We should only be picking principled anti-Zionists to lead. It's not that we don't want people to change their mind. Can someone give me this clip? Can somebody like pull this up for me?
Focused on during this.
I think the only way that these grifters can ever do something that is redeemable is if they detail and identify exactly how they were paid.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good way. You know, we need to get that out of.
They were talking about the slop tubers. They're talking about content creators, slop tubers.
this guy here. We need to get Matt Duss to detail exactly how.
Like, that's what you were focused on during this. Do that. They'll try.
Or like even maybe pro-Palestinian grifters in the future. What? It's a genocide? They're starving them? Oh, damn, I was fooled. Crap. And now they might try to like rebrand as like enlightened centrist grifters, or like even maybe pro-Palestinian grifters in the future, because they want to keep the money flowing in from their Twitter monetization. They want to keep getting like op-ed opportunities in major media outlets.
One talk about is like, it's one thing for someone to realize they were wrong and then actively work towards helping alleviate the problem, which is a genocide.
Which is what Matt Duss is doing. Wait, so the clip that Badapanada used is actually out of context? And Noah said it's one thing for someone to change their mind and then work, which is what Matt came on Hassan's stream to say, that it's a genocide. Isn't that what Matt's doing? Wait, did Badapanada clip chip this video? And they were, by the way, they were talking about online grifters, not people who have power or influence. Did he just clip chip?
Media outlets.
One talk about is like, it's one thing for someone to realize they were wrong and then actively work towards helping alleviate the problem, which is a genocide. It's another thing entirely to use this as a way to boost a media career. And I think with a lot of these people that are going to change their mind and try to reposition, we got to remember, we got to keep a very close record of what they said while it was happening and not let them do that. They'll try, but there should be a continuous effort to say, no. On October 10th, you started justifying what Israel is doing. You started weaponizing your identity to run cover for Israel and blame everything Israel's doing on Hamas, which is exactly what Israel's doing.
Or college protesters.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what you were focused on during this.
I think the only way that these grifters can ever do something that is redeemable is if they detail and identify exactly how they were paid.
Yes.
And basically out this entire pervasive influence network and work as a...
So they were talking about specifically SlopTube. They were talking about Nicholas Diorio. They were talking about Hutch. They were talking about Destiny. They were talking about people making content who were pro-Israel content creators, and how we shouldn't allow pro-Israel content creators to rebrand themselves now that it's clear it's a genocide. But Noah said if a person changes their mind and works to stop it, we should accept that. So he clip chipped it.
Why he was paid, but he hasn't done that, so I don't know why you invited him onto your stream. He could blow the lid off all of this shit by telling us who paid him to spread genocide propaganda. As far as I'm aware, he's not even Jewish, so he doesn't even have like the ethnic solidarity thing to go with. Who paid him? I want to know. That's a good question. Why didn't you ask him that, Hassan? There's also Hassan Piker saying that Zionists should not even be allowed to be the local dog catcher. I mean, you've all seen that clip, right? But apparently they're fit to be invited onto his stream, I guess. There is certainly merit to inviting people like this on, but for a confrontational debate where you confront them and use them as vectors to show that, for example, the mass rape hoax is precisely that. And like that Zionism was always precisely what it is now, and that they assisted in allowing what is happening now to happen. So fuck them for trying to wash their hands of it now. You know, oh, I noticed that Israel is bad now. Previously I supported it, but I noticed that it's bad now. I didn't notice, I didn't notice with the Great March of Return. I didn't notice with the 2014 bombings that killed like 2,000 people. I didn't notice with Operation Cast Lead. I didn't notice with the Nakba. I didn't notice with anything else.
It's lead, not lead.
Now I'm finally noticing, now that the tide is turning to a massive degree and people like me aren't going to have a job anymore soon. Finally, I'm noticing, what a coincidence that once it's hit, it's potentially going to hit my bottom line.
I wish the world that Badapanada lives in was the world that actually exists. I wish the world that he lives in actually existed. I wish we were at the point where no one could get a job at the Democratic Party without being a virulent anti-Zionist. I wish I was in that world. I wish I lived in that bubble. I don't know where that bubble lives, but it's not America. And Matt Duss, I have a lot of problems with him, and I don't like him. And in fact, I sympathize with Badapanada and Z Squirrel. And I like the fact that they're unhinged and going after liberal Zionists and freaking out and calling out people out for bad shit. I like it. I promote it. When I can, I retweet it. But the moment that you're like, oh, people are changing their mind on genocide, let me interfere with that. Oh, you want to invite people to change their mind on Israel? You're a liberal Zionist. Oh, you work with like Jewish groups like Jewish Voice for Peace? Well, that is you. You are actually doing Jewish chauvinism. Why do Jewish opinions matter? We shouldn't do that. It's like, well, it's about preventing lies about us being anti-Semitic. Madam Panada, did you miss what happened in the UK? We're trying to build an electoral left movement that could seize American state power and pull out of Israel. That is one of our goals. One of our goals is that being anti-Israel wins power in the American state and disconnects America's alliances with Israel. And if you're like, well, that can't happen. It happened to South Africa. It happened to South Vietnam. America pulls out all the time from our genocidal shit. We stopped funding the Contras. America does all sorts of crimes. And then we end them because, guess what? It becomes unpopular among the mainstream. The reason why the Vietnam War ended is because there was a consensus in the American population that they hated the Vietnam War and they wanted it to end. It wasn't that America couldn't make any more ships or bombs, couldn't draft any more troops. There were a lot of people who supported the Vietnam War that changed their fucking mind. That's why the North Vietnamese were able to finally win, because America pulled out. They whipped us and then we pulled out. It wasn't worth the cost anymore. But it wasn't because the Vietnamese army defeated America on the battlefield. It was marching into Washington, D.C. Like, we need to be aware, like, the South African apartheid happened because America, public opinion shifted and the politicians ended our cooperation. So, like, I would have saved the Palestinian people. And if it means Matt Duss is allowed to say that it's a genocide, then okay, Matt Duss can say it's a genocide. As long as I don't give up anything. As long as he's changing his position to my position, I want to encourage you to do that. I don't want to tell you you can't change to my position if you ever disagreed with me. That's fucking crazy.
Line. Now I'm noticing that. And this is how Hassan ends his...
This is white leftist shit, to be honest. This is what happens when white people lead movements they are personally affected by. You know what? Well, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Go to your Splitter Discord. I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing what the Palestinian people are calling for, you asshole cocks. Like, honest to God, I don't understand how you guys could cock up this situation so badly that you're ignoring what the Palestinian people are calling for, which is an immediate ceasefire. Like, god damn, man. Like, it is so fucking annoying to hear this kind of shit. The Palestinian people are starving. They need help immediately. They need a ceasefire now. They don't care if people who are former liberal Zionists call for it. They're starving to death, you son of a bitch. God damn, that's so disgusting. That's so disgusting. Friendly Fire, he was talking about BE. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I'm sorry, it was Friendly Fire. I'm sorry, tech school dropout. I apologize. I apologize. I apologize, tech school dropout. Sorry about that. I apologize for that. I was incredibly enraged by the idea that you were using the form of an argument that is just stupid. Sorry about that. Everyone is white in this conversation. Adepanada is white. I'm white. It doesn't matter that I'm 1/8 Italian. I'm white. Okay? Let's stop. All right? And the thing that really pisses me off is that we now have a movement of people who are just like, we just want an apology. Fuck you. That's what H3H3 does. That's what the ADL does. We just want you to apologize for your anti-Semitism. We just want an apology. Hassan should apologize. For what? For doing an interview that was done on our terms?
Talk with his new best friend, Matt Duss, genocidal Zionist, mass rape, 40 beheaded babies.
His new best friend, who didn't... Did he say 40 beheaded babies? I didn't see that.
Form a community within an existing state. There were all kinds of questions about, okay, how do we relate to the indigenous population? Is it a Jewish ethno state? What does self-determination for Jews really require? And so that's how I would tend to define Zionism broadly. It's just the belief that the Jews are a people and as a people have a right to self-determination. Now others define, well, a right to self-determination in their historic homeland of Israel in the Middle East, a right to a Jewish ethno-state. You know, people add all kinds of different details on that. But in understanding it in its broadest terms, I understand it as I said. I mean, I know I have really close friends who identify themselves as progressive Zionists, who would share a lot of our criticisms, and who live there and do this work under considerable pressure and trying to create a society that is equal.
Oh, damn, we should watch the full video. This is the worst part of it so far that I've seen. So let's keep going.
Considerable pressure and trying to create a society that is equal, in which Jews and Palestinians are equal under the law. Some of them support two states, some of them support one state, some of them support one kind of confederal arrangement. But I do think there are people who identify strongly as Zionists, to whom your description of kind of an a violent ethno-eliminationist chauvinism doesn't really apply.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if
by the way,
the impact.
By the way, there are people like Matt Duss is right about who do exist. They're completely politically irrelevant, and they have no power in Israel. Liberal Zionism or binationalism or any of the other conceptions of like a liberal Zionist state are completely dead in Israel. There's no support for that whatsoever. There are so if there's some American person who identifies as some sort of like fringe binationalist Zionist, that's not real anymore. 80% of Israelis support ethnic cleansing. They don't that's not real. You could have whatever. It's a splitter discord. It is a fringe discord. You're wish casting. It's irrelevant.
With a deliberate attempt to inevitably implement the greater Israeli state project, which Benjamin Netanyahu has even pontificated on as recently as this past week, then the way I see it is just like the old understanding of Zionism. And I always go back to Albert Einstein on this, which, he was, I guess, such a Zionist initially that he was slated to be the president of Israel, the first president of Israel. And his attitude on this was that the brigades, the initial, the early Zionist brigades that turned into the Israeli Defense Force after the development of the nation state, when he saw the atrocities that were unfolding, when he caught wind of this, he wrote letters decrying that Irgun, Lihi, and even the Haganah, these militia movements were behaving exactly like the Nazis were. And I feel like someone who has that attitude that early on in the initial formation of the Israeli nation state, which came with the Nakba, an ethnic displacement campaign that was crafted with the deliberate interest of ethnically displacing 750,000 Palestinians from their villages, implies that, especially when you factor in Theodore Herzl or even Jabotinsky's assessments or David Ben-Gurion's statements about...
Okay, so we have Matt Duss sitting here nodding along as Hassan does a whole bunch of anti-Zionist history, right? Like, could I take this clip and go, Bernie Sanders, advisor, supports anti-Zionist history, and the you know what I mean? Like, could it go the other way? Could we do the same thing that was done when he was sitting there listening to someone else talk on the piece of shit HBO? What's his fucking name? Bill Maher show. Could we do the same clip? Does it apply the other way? Like, of course not, because it's not about what actually went down during the interview. This is why I found Adipada's video to be slop. If he made a video that was tightly argued, that include clips where Matt was making these arguments without any pushback from Hassan, that would be one thing. But that's not what's happening. It's Matt Duss did this. Here's all the bad things that Matt Duss has done. Hassan endorses him. He's his best friend. And Matt Duss is trying to make an alt media career because anti-Zionism is now so powerful in District of Columbia, no one who is a liberal Zionist will ever be able to get a job. Like, and Hassan is propping him up. Like, what are you talking about? It's fundamentally just nonsensical.
The indigenous population and what must be done with them, it comes across as though it's been marketing. It's been marketed as something different. And I think that social conditioning has played a major role in this, especially in the West, for American Jews as well as, of course, the evangelical Zionists, the evangelical Christian Zionists. But ultimately, it might, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, then it's probably not a chicken. We might be looking at a duck.
I mean, everything you said there is fair. I would also add, someone who might identify as a communist can defy communism in very basic terms, but if they're being honest about their ideology, they do need to contend with the reality of governments that identified as communists, like the Soviets, like the Chinese Communist Party. And some of the things that were carried out in communism's name. That doesn't mean that defines communism for all time. But if they're going to be honest about what their ideology means, they do have to grapple with actually existing communism. You can find other examples too. So again,
I agree with you. I think that it's very important to learn from the past mistakes of.
By the way, everybody agrees with this. If you don't learn from your past, I mean, Mao agrees with this. Like, if you don't learn from your past mistakes, if you can't reckon with problems, then you're going to lose in the future. Obviously, like, this is a non-point.
Attempts towards developing communism, like the transitional socialist states, whether it be like USSR or existing transitional socialist states like the current formation in China.
Adam Banata is now saying you're only doing this because you're mad he won't let you on his stream. What? Adam Banata is mad that I corrected his misinformation that AOC supported the Bolivian coup when she was the first American politician to come out. He spread a misinformation about her supporting the Bolivian coup when it was the exact opposite. And I just replied to him and said, no, she didn't do that. You're spreading propaganda. And he was been mad at me ever since. Because I have my criticisms of AOC, but I want to make them factual. I don't spread misinformation about people. I also don't like when people spread misinformation about Zoran, because I believe that having electoral left-wing people actually makes the left more popular. Zoran makes socialism more popular in America. Even if I disagree with compromises or things that he does or arguments that he makes, him existing is more helpful. Are you going to talk about the movement MAS exploding? Yeah, the MAS exploded, and it's horrible. Matt Duss clearly stands for nothing. I wouldn't want him developing an actual audience because of that. I don't think a more succinct critique is his point about bringing Hassan into the mainstream media fold. Oh, don't worry. We're going to get to that.
There are always going to be issues. There's always going to be mistakes. And some of them are going to be incredibly costly. Widespread famine is obviously a great example of this in terms of some of the major issues that existed.
But I'm not somebody who walked. I like to see this criticism. I like to watch criticism. I watched Bad Banata's criticism all the time. But the reality is that Hassan and I disagree with Bad Banata. We believe that the left-wing movements in America are worth fighting for, that America isn't about to imminently collapse like some sort of tanky fantasy. And I have been identified as a tanky for a long time. I believe that the genocide of Gaza, if that means I have to work with Matt Duss to get food to Palestinians, then I'll work with Matt Duss. Even though I was there on day one saying that the Palestinians have the untrammeled right to resist. On October 7th, when I heard about the October 7th attacks, my post was, an occupied people have an untrammeled legal right to resist. That was my first response. On October 9th, when I saw the Israeli response, I said the only way they could do what they're saying they want to do is to do a genocide. I've been calling it, I called for Joe Biden to drop out in November of 2023. And I've been advocating for Palestine my entire time I've had this platform, since going back to 2019. So this isn't something that I just figured out for clout.
Yeah. Well, Matt Duss, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Hassan's editor, for plugging him so that everyone can go and follow him. And thank you for revealing to us that you follow him yourself as well.
This was a wonderful and enlightening conversation.
That's the editor. That's the editor putting that in.
What were you enlightened by, Hassan? What were you enlightened by?
Well, you didn't put any clips from the interview, Bad Banata. Like, I'm not even saying that Bad Banata is wrong to criticize it. He just didn't put any fucking clips on. And here's the thing. What's so funny is that in the Hassan circle, I have been the biggest Bad Banata advocate. When Hassan wasn't watching Bad Banata, I was trying to push Bad Banata. I was the one who endorsed Bad Banata. I was the one who was like, we need somebody like Bad Banata. So the idea that I'm like trying to farm clout off him, what the fuck is he even talking about? He doesn't have any Twitch clout. I was watching his videos on the Xinjiang situation. I watched his video on the Hollandor. I watched his videos on all sorts of shit. I've been pushing Bad Banata without getting anything in return for years. In fact, I always support people even though they don't support me back, because I don't give a shit. I'm not transactional like that. And yeah, I have tried to get Bad Banata to come on my stream, And because why wouldn't I? Of course I do. When I agree with someone on something, I try to get them on my stream. Like, duh.
I'd love to
But
know.
now he's banned. He's banned on Twitch. So he can't come on my Twitch stream. I have to go on his stream. Like, that's the only way we can interact because he's banned on Twitch.
I hope I didn't press you too hard on some
not
of
at all.
these things.
Thank you.
No, not at all.
And yeah, I hope to have you back on the broadcast soon.
All right, anytime.
Hope to have him back on soon. No different to inviting Ethan Klein onto your broadcast. So let's talk about why this is happening. There is an enlightening clip that basically summarizes the entire thesis of manufacturing consent, which I will use to sum it up here.
Is a censoring organization. Tell me how that works. You're not suggesting that proprietors phone one another up, or that many journalists get their copies spiked, as we say?
It's actually Orwell, you may recall, has an essay called Literary Censorship.
Okay, so his criticism of Hassan's interview included no clips of the interview except the part where Hassan said goodbye. What a constructive criticism, man. Thanks. If the interview was so bad, why didn't you have like 8 clips of the interview?
In England, which was supposed to be the introduction to Animal Farm, except that it never appeared, in which he points out, look, I'm writing about a totalitarian society, but in free democratic England, it's not all that different. And then he says unpopular ideas can be silenced without any force. And then he gives a two-sentence response, which is not very profound, but captures it. He says 2 reasons. First, the press is owned by wealthy men who have every interest in not having certain things appear. But second, the whole educational system, from the beginning on through, just gets you to understand that there are certain things you just don't say. Well, spelling these things out, that's perfectly correct. I mean, it's the first sentence is what we expand on.
This is what I don't get, because it suggests that, I mean, I'm a journalist, people like me are self-censoring.
No, not self-censoring. There's a filtering system that starts in kindergarten, goes all the way through, and it doesn't work 100%, but it's pretty effective. It selects for obedience and subordination, and especially, I think that's
so stroppy people won't make it to positions of influence.
Behavior problems, or if you read applications to a graduate school, you see that people will tell you he's not, doesn't get along too well with his colleagues. You know how to interpret those things.
I'm just interested in this because I was brought up, like a lot of people, probably post-Watergate film and so on, to believe that journalism was a crusading craft and that there were a lot of disputatious, stroppy, difficult people in journalism. And I have to say, I think I know some of them.
Well, I know some of the best and best-known investigative reporters in the United States. I won't mention names, but whose attitude toward the media is much more cynical than mine. In fact, they regard the media as a sham, and they know and they consciously talk about how they try to play it like a violin. If they see a little opening, they'll try to squeeze something in that ordinarily wouldn't make it through. And it's perfectly true that I'm sure you're speaking for the majority of journalists who are trained, have it driven into their heads that this is a crusading profession, adversarial, we stand up against power, a very self-serving view. On the other hand, in my opinion, I hate to make a value judgment, but the better journalists, and in fact the ones who are often regarded as the best journalists, have quite a different picture, and I think a very realistic one.
How can you know that I'm self-censoring? How can you know that
you're
journalists
self-censoring? I'm sure you believe everything you're saying, but what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting.
Especially that last quip. I want you to think about that and apply it to Hassan Piker. I want you to...
By the way, chat, okay, so this is just nonsensical. First of all, Noam Chomsky has a lot of problematic historical things that we could talk about, but I'm not going to do that because it's irrelevant to the point that I'm about to make. Noam Chomsky is talking about mainstream media owned by corporations and the manufacture of consent. Hassan Piker did not get his legitimacy from mainstream media. In fact, it's the opposite. Mainstream media avoids talking to him for the most part, and he's only brought on by extremely sympathetic left-wing anchors or journalists, and he's given minimal screen time. Okay? That's just the reality. He's a filtered personality because of his views. He got his popularity through grassroots alternative media spaces at being extremely popular from regular people going to watch him and listening to him because he was supporting the left wing that had no media attention, was being shut out by the media. We grew because of opposition to the mainstream media. So that shit doesn't apply. It's completely irrelevant to what you're trying to say. And when the media talks about us, it's because we have an audience and they want access to that audience. It's completely reversed. Your analysis isn't even close to material reality. You've just made some shit up about what, the Hassan Piker Broadcasting Network? You think he makes Matt Duss relevant? Hassan makes Matt Duss relevant? Or was it the fact that he's on Bernie Sanders, the foreign policy advisor? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he was on Democracy Now! And I believe Matt's been on the Majority Report. He's been on, like, what are you talking about? It doesn't even make sense. He got his start through nepotism. He got his start through alt media, which is what TYT was. Like, you're not even making an argument that makes sense.
Think about how this might explain.
Is Bad Empanada now a grifter? No, I think Bad Empanada just hates Americans. He doesn't want the American left to have any purchase, and that's it. I mean, it's not that complicated. I mean, I understand it. Hating Americans is perfectly rational, but it is kind of funny coming from an Australian. I mean, if there's one country that is the most servile country in the world to America, it's Australia. Australia is the most servile country in the world to America. There isn't a single country that's more servile than Australia. It is more servile than Canada, more servile than the UK, more servile than Israel. It is Australia. I mean, we have a CIA base in the heart of Australia for the purpose of collecting information from satellites that Australians can't even go on. They went to fucking Vietnam with us, for fuck's sake.
Hassan Piker has only been getting more and more mainstream media penetration. Why he's getting profiled more and more. And whether there is an incentive for him to, quote unquote, self-censor or to even regulate his own genuine...
By the way, Bad Empanada, you self-censor and so do I, because there are platform rules. In order to have a platform, I can't say certain things. So do you. You're no different. You have to self-censor. You can't say shit. If you say you support PFLP or Hamas or whatever organization, then you're saying that, you know, people are being arrested right now in the United Kingdom for saying they support Palestine action. 500 people were just arrested for saying they support a non-violent protest group. They declared them a terrorist organization in the UK just recently. Like, what are you talking about? Mainstream media platforming him, therefore he's self-censoring. Can you give an example? If anything, Hassan doesn't. Hassan talks about how famously he supported the Yemeni resistance to Israel. He said that he had no problem with Hezbollah's resistance against Israel. Like, what are you talking about? He said America deserved 9/11. What are you on?
He held beliefs in which they give him reasons to do so. Like, he's learning right now. You know, he doesn't go too far on certain issues, or he at least tries to direct people to certain purported solutions, like Democratic Party entryism, for example, which he loves. Look at his support for Zoran right now, which in 5 years isn't going to age very well, mark my fucking words, provided that he keeps within those sorts of limits.
Wow, what a brave prediction. What a brave prediction. The left is going to be suppressed in America. Where do we get this bravery? Where do we get this bravery? See, he's too cool to support somebody like Zoran. Bad Empanada, he's doing the real shit. He's doing the real shit. This is what I like to call unconstructive grifter talk. Because it's like, yeah, Bad Empanada is cringe. So am I. So is Hassan. So is Zoran. We haven't marched to glorious revolution, the Scarlet Standard flying high.
They will give him these sorts of rewards. That is mainstream media penetration, more celebrity, potentially money, more fame, blah, blah, blah. In the same way that, if you're a journalist who spreads like the imperialist neoliberal...
By the way, chat, I think Bad Empanada, if you asked him, what organizing are you doing? He's saying none. I'm just on the internet. It's all meaningless. I'm just here to make money. That's what he says. And there's no doubt about it. Being an online content creator who's successful can make you a decent living. So you don't have to have a real job. But he's not organizing anything. He's not trying to put... And anytime somebody tries to do something, His main contribution is to tear it down and to deorganize you, to tell you to stop caring about Zoran. You probably were excited to hear a pro-Palestinian Muslim man was winning the Democratic primary. That probably made you feel good, right? That probably made you feel hope. That probably made you feel like, wait a minute, maybe we could actually change some politics by organizing a little bit. And his response is, why even care? In 5 years, he's going to be just as bad as AOC, which, you know, I don't know what a single congresswoman is supposed to have done after Bernie Sanders got his shit pushed in.
Status quo narrative, you have like every incentive to keep doing that, and they select you not because they're telling you what to say, but because you say what they already wanted you to say. This applies to everyone. You can apply it to Chomsky himself. You know, ask the question of why was Chomsky, despite supposedly being an anti-system radical, such a mainstream media mainstay for such a long time? There has to be something there, right?
Because he was anti-communist. And he was part of the CIA's attempt to make a compatible left. If the CIA is looking out on the internet right now, they are happy to push people who are trashing Hassan because Hassan represents somebody who is pushing for a politic that might actually change American foreign policy, and do so through a mechanism that might actually deliver under the best case scenario of electoral success. And it's happened before. So if the CIA, if they're trying to, you know, keep the left divided, they want to have people that are saying like, oh, if you participate in any kind of politics, then you are a liberal. That's what the CIA wants. The CIA wants a compatible, disorganized, unorganized left that spends its time doing lifestyleism and spend its time shooting ourselves in the foot.
With Hassan, it's even more obvious. Hassan is becoming more and more and more incentivized by the attention that he's getting from the mainstream media to self-regulate. It's similar to training a dog. We're all animals.
Can you give an example of this? Because this is just, Hassan is being incentivized. You don't know Hassan, man. Like, legitimately, you have no idea what you're talking about. Hassan does not give a shit about the mainstream media. Like, what the fuck is he talking about?
We're all beasts. If you train Hassan to believe that as long as he keeps advocating for, say, Democratic Party entryism or whatever it is that's making them comfortable enough to do this with him, he gets these interviews, he gets profiled in the NYT and GQ or whatever.
By the way, I am somebody who wants a new party to be formed. But I also, instead of just saying I want a new party to be formed, I actually study successful third parties, both in this country and abroad. We call that comparative and historical political, application of politics, right? You are not going to get a new workers' party unless you have popular, well-known left-wing leaders that form it. Or else it'll just be the 8th crank leftist party that already exists. And if you look at the UK, Jeremy Corbyn, the reason why I'm excited about that party is because Jeremy Corbyn is starting it. Somebody who already has a national political platform and has millions of people who support him. Just saying we shouldn't do any Democratic Party entryism is just idiotic. Being an abstentionist is not getting us anywhere. And you could see literally, now I'm sure he finds DSA cringe. I'm sure he would go out of his way to attack DSA. I would love a Badapadana video on DSA so I could react to that. That would be fun. But DSA saw its biggest growth when we saw electoral success. Regular people considered socialism to be something that might be a serious movement when there was an electoral success. And that opened up membership in all sorts of socialist organizations, even radical and revolutionary socialist organizations. They saw growth themselves when Bernie Sanders won. Or Bernie Sanders grew his presidential campaign, when AOC won, when Zoran won. Like, this is just basic math.
He will self-regulate so that he gets more of these profiles, more of this mainstream media penetration. Eventually, you know, he's going to make some...
I mean, this is just reality. This is just reality. DSA dominates the organized American left. 72,000 dues-paying members. I think it's climbing back towards 100,000. Green Party of the United States. Communist Party of the United States. The ACP has what? 250 paying members? I mean, I have more subscribers than this. I have more subscribers than the Green Party of the USA has paying members. Pathetic.
Debate appearances on CNN or something, it's going to go further and further and further. If you think he or you are immune to this stuff, you're totally and completely wrong. We're watching someone basically be groomed by the mainstream media in real time. This is just the beginning of it. He might not even be noticing it, though I have to wonder how it's even possible, why you are suddenly like getting increasing mainstream media attention and they're normalizing you and stuff like that. You know, that would make me wonder whether what I'm doing is in some way useful to them, or whether they have like aspirations for me.
So basically Badapanada is like, hey, am I getting too popular? That must mean I'm wrong. Hey, am I becoming popular? That must mean I'm wrong. Are people changing their minds and agreeing with my positions I've held for 10 years? Then I must be going wrong. Or, and I'm going to apply some what I call critical thinking, Badapanada, is Zohran Mamdani crushed the former governor of New York by bringing out literally 100,000 new voters that had never voted in a Democratic primary before. And Zohran had campaigned with Hassan, and it represented like a politics of the left among young people that was now getting mainstream electoral success. And so people like Hassan became newsworthy, and people were trying to figure it out why people like Zohran came out of nowhere. And one of the reasons is success on social media, aka not part of the mainstream media gate-kept shit that Noam Chomsky was talking about from 30 years ago. The clip you played, that was talking about the mainstream media, which would have gate-kept somebody like Zohran out of the conversation in the past. But now, because of alternative media like Hassan, an anti-Zionist won the Democratic primary in the largest Jewish by population city in the world, who won the majority of Jewish votes in that primary. Might be worth thinking about.
I perhaps am not that conscious of. You know, it starts the same in every way. You know, I'm sure Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually thought that she was a crusader out to break the Democratic Party norms regarding foreign policy and stuff like that in the beginning. Look where she is now. You know, I'm sure all the journalists who got subsumed by the system started out thinking that they were...
I mean, like, AOC is the third best congresswoman on voting for Palestine. Even though I criticize AOC, like... it's not like she's suddenly voting for all sorts of pro-Israel shit. That's just not even true. My problem with her is she doesn't see the opportunity. She needs to abandon people like Brad Lander and Matt Duss. That's what I've been arguing for.
Going to join the New York Times and be heterodox and really challenge power, and look where they are now. And I'm sure...
yes, because it's American electoral politics. We have fixed elections. You lose in 2020. You lose in 2024. You don't get a chance. Like, we haven't had a chance to have a Democratic primary since 2020. And we're not going to have another Democratic Party primary for president until 2028. What, do you want us to magically conjure political power when we didn't win? Like, what does this even mean?
Hassan Piker genuinely thinks that he's doing what's right for anti-Zionism or whatever. But then look where he's going to be in 5 years. Do you think he's more likely to be like trying to lead people to a burgeoning third party that is finally making, say, this is, you know, obviously hypothetical, this probably isn't going to happen, you're Americans, you know.
By the way, this is not a hypothetical. This is not a hypothetical. There is a new third party in the UK. There's a new third party in France. Hassan met with Mélenchon. Hassan has met and is supporting Corbyn's third party. He has talked to me about starting a new third party and being prepared for it and ready for it, but we actually have to have it. What are you talking about? We supported Morena in Mexico. What are you talking about? You're just making shit up. This is the problem with criticism, right? Badapanada is saying shit that doesn't represent what I believe or what Hassan believes because of aesthetics. Because the only way he's ever seen any of us is clips from Destiny. Mélenchon said Hassan was his favorite American leftist. He met with Lula da Silva. I mean, it's just a ridiculous point.
Do shit, but like a burgeoning third party that's actually making inroads? Or do you think he's going to be supporting the next iteration of AOC Zohran? I think he's going to be doing the second one. And
Zohran isn't even won yet, and he hasn't conceded on any of his anti-Zionist points. AOC is a backbencher in the Democratic Party with no power. Like, what are we talking about here?
He's going to be doing that after many more profiles, not just profiles anymore. They'll let him write an opinion piece. They'll bring him on to CNN every now and again. That sort of thing. He's being groomed. And that is why he's whether he realizes it or not. That is why he's inviting someone like Matt Duss onto his stream. Because inviting like a DC foreign policy guy, Zionists no less, is what you do when you are in the mainstream, when you're trying to curry favor with the mainstream. This is the sort of guy who goes on CNN all the time to like, you know, rationalize Bernie Sanders' foreign policy positions from a aggressive sounding lens. Makes perfect sense that someone who is being groomed for a role that serves the status quo would talk to someone like that. Hassan can realize this now before it's too late, or he can let it happen. I mean, there's plenty of personal benefit to him for this happening. Why wouldn't he let it happen?
Again, this is criticism? What are you on, bro? Hassan has gotten mainstream coverage before 5 years ago. What is he talking about? There's two types of cynicism, chat. There is an intelligent cynicism where you look at who funds people, where they're getting their support, what their background is, what their old positions are, and you hold their feet to the fire about the stuff that they do. And you are suspicious of people that have bad intentions and have bad history. But you always look and see what they're actually doing. And then there's this kind of lazy, stupid cynicism that Badaparada is doing, which is just completely bad faith. He's inventing some 5 years from hence Hassan, and then saying Hassan is doing it. He's saying that Zoran is bad before Zoran even took power. This is the compatible left. This is what the CIA wants. This is legitimately what the CIA wants the left to be like in America, which is doomer, disorganized, not contending for power in elections, not trying to form our own organizations, not trying to form our own propaganda networks, not trying to persuade people. This is what they want. This is the compatible left. This is the left that they want. And it doesn't surprise me that he played a Noam Chomsky clip, because Noam Chomsky served that role very well. This is, you cheated on me in my dream. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, in 5 years, you're going to be. So in 5 years, if Zoran actually doesn't do the things that he says, is Badaparada going to bow down and kiss our feet? Like, what's the prediction here? What's the accountability that Badaparada is proposing here? Badaparada is the Alex Jones of the left? No, he isn't. Alex Jones is like supportive of the right, far right's electoral work. Alex Jones is running out there doing propaganda for Donald Trump. He's running out there doing propaganda for Big Balls or whatever the fuck that 16-year-old, the guy who got beat up by a 15-year-old. Like, Alex Jones is supportive of the far right's electoral work. Badaparada is opposed to our electoral work. Thank you, VO. VO got me breakfast, chat. Thanks, VO. We're watching the Badaparada video, and I'm telling you, it's dog shit. And here's the thing. If he had real criticisms, I would agree with him. Like, that's the thing that's funny. But these aren't real. These are all optical, grifter, slop tuber style arguments. How does this leftist doomerism fit with your liberal doomerism thesis? It's the same thing. This is ultra-liberalism. This is ultra-liberalism, which is like basically the settlers mentality. The idea is, I can't believe white men are trying to do socialism in America. That'll never work. They're settlers. And then it's like, oh wow, this guy's advocating. They've nominated a Muslim immigrant, anti-Zionist, open socialist. Well, that must be fake. I'm going to shit on that while Israel is shitting their pants, pouring billions of dollars against it. I'm going to shit all over it and tell you guys not to organize, not to care, not to support it, not to believe. Thanks, man. You really are Man, Israel is quaking.
He'll make a ton of money from it. He'll get really famous. He'll get invited to the fucking Oscars eventually. Why wouldn't he? He's going to be highly incentivized to become, or to at least maintain the role that he already serves rather than to challenge it. He's gonna take the incentives. You know, get angry at me all you want for pointing out what is really fucking obvious to anyone who understands what's going on here at all. You know, like anyone with a basic understanding of like materialism, historical materialism, like the basic thesis of manufacturing consent, a book from 40 years ago that like every 14-year-old has read. Like every 14-year-old interested in politics, at least. This is very obvious stuff, and I think that some people would even contest it is very worrying, just because it's like their favorite streamer who we're talking about here. You know, he can realize what's happening.
He's saying that Hassan is incentivized to do, I don't know what, he didn't actually say, because he wants to have mainstream acceptability. Meanwhile, you're on YouTube. You are censoring yourself right now. We all have to censor ourselves to be on these platforms. I have to censor what I say because I don't want to be arrested. I don't want to be deplatformed and banned.
Happening here, or you can just like like keep letting them train him like a dog by giving him incentives to act the way they want him to act. Thus far, he has...
By the way, the chat's open. Where are the people that are arguing in favor of Bad Empanada? Where is your point? Well, it's a fucking wide open chat, 0-minute follower mode. Where's all the people that were so convinced this was great? Why isn't anybody making a fucking point? The point is that Hassan should cook it better. What? We're in the Pikers mainstream media turn explained. The mainstream media turn is that Hassan got profiled by Gentleman's Quarterly. There is no mainstream media turn. There is no change in Hassan's positions.
Dance with that tune to a T. So yeah, I don't really expect much here. It's going to be Democratic Party entryism until the end of time. It's going to be vote for the latest new Democrat guy who's totally different to all the other Democrats, who 5 years later is just going to be exactly like all the other Democrats over and over and over again.
Does Bad Empanada think we won or something? Does Bad Empanada think that the left won or something? Does he think Bernie Sanders won the presidency? Does he think AOC is the Speaker of the House? We haven't won shit. Does he think like we've been betrayed or confused about who we lost? We lost the primary.
Prevent potential anti-systemic energy from really forming into like a critical mass that could...
Bad Empanada is right about the Democratic Party and every attempt to enter it. That's my position. My position is the Democratic Party is fundamentally anti-democratic and broken. But I will opportunistically support really good candidates who are running for political power. And if they win, that's great. I am a person who supports dirty break, but until we actually have a dirty break, I'm going to support the people doing political campaigns that I agree with. That's called, there's no either or. If you're going to do a dirty break, you need people like Zoran elected already. You need people like AOC elected already. You need people like Corbyn elected already. You need people like AMLO the reason why Morena worked is because AMLO was the presidential candidate for the center-left party before. To have a dirty break, you need somebody like Mélenchon already in office. You can't just do a dirty, like there's 8 million rump Discord parties that already exist. If you want to have an actual dirty break, you need politicians that have won already.
Potentially do something different. Or he can surprise me and everyone else by ceasing to allow them to use him. Whatever it is that he wants. Go ahead, Hassan. Make my day by not doing it anymore. I don't think he will, though. And his fans will be fucking so angry at this video. They're going to call this drama. They're going to do everything possible except actually deal with the substance of what I'm saying.
What substance? I went through every single thing you said, and no one was like, well, Mike, you missed Bad Empanada's point about X. I went through the whole fucking thing. What substance? What substance? Matt Duss made tweets. Then I actually pulled up the conversation, and Matt Duss was saying it was a starvation and a genocide. And he was nodding along as Hassan explained Zionism as an ethno-supremacist ideology.
Just because people follow him, and it's not just him, it's everyone else, but people follow YouTube personalities, you know, the same way they follow like mainstream musical personalities, like Taylor Swift, for example. Hassan is the Taylor Swift to a significantly less amount of people that Taylor Swift is the Taylor Swift to, but he is nonetheless to them like their obsession. And it makes them really uncomfortable to see him criticized in a way that is really uncontestable and just correct. To be clear,
you know, your argument is really strong when you reference to being incontestable and correct instead of going back to the point that you made that was really strong. Like in your conclusion, you typically like to cite the points that you made that were super good.
Clear, I am actually not incentivized to shit on Hassan Piker. For me, like the financial, celebrity, fame, reputational incentive is for me to align with Hassan Piker on everything and to like leech off him. But I don't do that even though it hurts me because I guess I'm a moron. And I think that as humans, I mean...
By the way, chat, do you think it is true or false that putting Hassan in your title is good for your algorithm on the left? Yes or no? Right now, Laura Loomer has pressured the Trump administration to remove the visas of Palestinian children that are coming to the United States for specialty health care for their amputations from Israeli bombs. But instead, we're talking about how Matt Duss, who on the stream said that Israel is committing starvation and genocide, is bad because of positions he used to hold that no longer holds.
I mean, Israel has been trying to disprove this a lot recently, but I think that as humans, we are generally smarter than like just following the incentive structures like dogs. And I think we can go above that and do better. So I try to, which is why I don't follow the incentive structures, because if I wanted to, I would be like sucking Hassan off to the point that he invites me onto his stream regularly, which, to be clear, Hassan does not even have...
Which you can't do because you're Twitch banned.
...direct contact with me. It's always for a third party because, like, he really doesn't want to have to talk to me directly. I think I would probably ruin his brain and he'd block me.
He already talked to you directly, and you ended up agreeing with him on everything, and you were super nice. So, you know what I mean? Like, you already talked to him already, and you were super nice, and you agreed on everything, and you kind of kissed his ass a bit.
2 seconds. Like Hassan always says, like, if I wanted to make money, I'd be doing the right-wing grift. That's bullshit. He has a niche that he is a part of now that he is largely dominant in. He would not make more money by leaving that niche. The right-wing media space is overflowing. There's way less opportunity there. There is a lot of room.
What's really funny about this is it's like, you can kind of see what Bad Empanada cares about by what he decides to bring up, which is mainstream media attention, making money, leftist niche. You know what I mean? Like, Hassan basically started this, and I started this when there was no niche on Twitch to make money by being a leftist. When I started in 2019, nobody was making money from being a left-wing streamer on Twitch. I did not do this to make money. I did this because I was passionate about it, and I saw that there was nobody who was talking about left-wing politics on Twitch other than Hassan. And I wanted to do it too because I was more of an electoral guy. I had worked in campaigns. I had run for office as a 29-year-old. I thought that I had some expertise about the connection between being a left-winger and actually running elections. And I thought that might be fun to apply my knowledge about campaigns to the political analysis that was happening online with amateurs, none of whom actually had any experience in politics. You're self-reporting, man. And I'm connected. I don't know about you, chat. But, like, I am trying to organize socialists in my own country. I may be shit at it. I may be a bad organizer. I may be a bad commentator. I may be cringe. I may be a white man. I may suck at it, but at least I'm trying. And Hassan is a lot better than me. Hassan is a lot better than me at this. And we have organized tens of thousands of people. Go to a fucking pro-Palestine protest, and there will be Hasanabi heads there. There will be... talk to anybody who's on the left in America who's young. They know who Hassan is, and he probably helped them get there. I fucking hate this shit, man. This wrecker shit, this disgusting nihilistic shit, it really bothers me. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it.
For someone like him, especially given that he still remains within the bounds, not just of what's allowed or what's considered, you know, acceptable to the mainstream Democratic Party, but also Twitch, you know. The fact that he doesn't move to YouTube is very telling. He cares more about, like, maintaining his...
YouTube streaming sucks! YouTube streaming sucks! Who gives a fuck? And it's good that the biggest political streamer, one of the biggest political streamers on this platform is left-wing. That's good! What are you talking about?
His Twitch platform and perhaps the money that it makes for him than he does about, say, multi-streaming to YouTube, which doesn't have any rules against multi-streaming. And YouTube is a much bigger audience as well. So there's something going on behind the scenes there. Not just a much bigger audience, but has much laxer rules. You can say way more on YouTube. You can say Zionist on YouTube. I have to ask questions about what's going on there as well.
I say Zionist here. Nobody's been banned for saying Zionist on Twitch that I'm aware of.
There's incentive structures that everyone, you know, has to abide by. Like, I have incentive structures to not, for example, violate the YouTube terms of service because I'd get kicked off the platform, no more money. But they are nonetheless way more permissible than Twitch's. So you have to ask the question, then why does he remain on Twitch? YouTube gets way more viewers, especially for politics. Why the fuck is he on a gaming platform? It's incomprehensible. Just another question that we need to ask. Will Hassan realize what's going on here? Or will...
The answer is that YouTube will DMCA your live stream if you do stuff like watch like video clips, DMCA is less strictly enforced on Twitch. So in general, it's better to stream politics on Twitch because you won't have to constantly be wrestling with getting DMCA'd. That's why you stream on Twitch. Also, streaming on Twitch is just more comfortable and better in general. And we want to make live programs.
Will he not care? I don't know. He's just going to ignore this video. He's going to ignore that I ever talked about this.
So which is it? Is it Hassan is like incentivized to become mainstream media? Or is it that Hassan is stupid because he doesn't want to get a bigger audience on YouTube? What the fuck are you talking about? This is incoherent.
He's going to call me crazy or whatever. You know, as long as he gets to do a bathtub photo shoot for GQ, I think he cares way more about that than any of his espoused politics. He may care about them at least a bit, genuinely, but not enough to really think about what is going on with like these mainstream media outlets suddenly being very interested in him. He's very much incentivized not to ask questions about that and what they might indicate regarding his overall stance.
I can't believe Hassan is accepting positive profiles in mainstream media while not changing his positions whatsoever on anything. Why does all Hassan criticism devolve into stupid, sexy Hassan? It's like, legitimately, whenever you're dealing with narcissism, and we all have it, especially in our society, some people don't like the fact that people are attracted to Hassan because he's good looking. And they get super butthurt over it. And then therefore they try to like cast any attention he gets for being attractive as evidence of his corruption or something. This is the socialists don't have sex wing. I mean, chat, yeah, that was the criticism? Matt Duss had a bad take. You used to have bad takes, Bad Panada. I don't want to platform you anymore. Here you are promoting liberal Zionism in 2019. Or sorry, 2020. Here you are promoting liberal Zionists, a tweet written by Matt Duss. You fail your purity test. Get out. This was 4 years after the Matt Duss tweet that you cited.
Dictator. He also regularly expresses at least some degree of solidarity with some of these center-left leaders of the third world, like Lula in Brazil. And that's pretty important because generally these sorts of center-left leaders who aren't even that radical are forced to regulate themselves a whole lot to avoid just sort of annoying the USA and being denounced like they're the return of the USSR on the USA's doorstep or whatever. Something that a lot of people miss is that the USA's primary influence worldwide is actually not so much through its direct interventions and espionage and such, but rather through its economic and diplomatic influence. The USA simply taking a negative or even neutral stance towards a country can have some pretty devastating economic and diplomatic effects. Because the US is the world's biggest economy, controls the world's most important currency, and basically every government in the world is forced to engage with the US financially. For example, even though Venezuela and the USA are basically enemies at this point, the US government has pervasive control over the Venezuelan government's assets because so much of them are in the USA and it's pretty much unavoidable. And that's without even getting into how the USA can throw its weight around to get other countries that suck up to it to denounce and ruin their relations with these countries as well, which further compounds that effect. Now look, I don't think that...
Okay, now 5 years ago, Bad Panada used to think that it was worth working with people a little bit to his right so that America would not throw its weight around as much. Why did he change his position? Was he incentivized by the YouTube algorithm to be more contentious and more argumentative? Did he start changing the type of his content in order to get more clicks for clout? Was he incentivized by making money in the algorithm to be more less agreeable and more aggressive? So how come the analysis that applies to Hassan is not also applying to himself? Hassan doesn't even deny that he should have researched Matt's tweets more. He agreed with that this is a valid criticism. Everything else is bullshit, especially calling Hassan a sellout. That's what pisses me off. Is it's one thing to be like, hey, Matt Duss had some really bad takes. Could you ask him about that next time, comrade? Versus, Hassan is a liberal Zionist! Hassan is a sellout! Hassan is a piece of shit, just like Zoran, who's in the middle of a fucking election. This is what made me break away from Bad Panada. And I liked his attack dog personality, and I wanted to have an attack dog on the left who would go after our enemies on the right. But he's feral. He's rabid. He's coming back to attack us. He's coming back to attack Zoran. Zoran is running against Benjamin Netanyahu's defense attorney. Whether or not you think Zoran is going to be some sort of like he's going to betray us or compromise in a way that we don't like, he at least espouses anti-Zionism. And he's running against somebody who wants to protect Benjamin Netanyahu from the ICC, who wants to sanction the ICC. Zoran has promised to arrest Netanyahu if he can. How could you have a better promise than that? And the United Nations is headquartered in New York City. So if there's any politician in the world that has a better chance of actually laying his hands on Benjamin Netanyahu, it is the mayor. Mike, if you would interview him right now, would you confront him with that? Absolutely. I don't like Matt Duss. So if so, like, what is the point? Like, you could say that Democratic Party entryism is not going to work. I agree with that. That's my analysis. However, it doesn't mean every single attempt is therefore anti-revolutionary or something. We make pragmatic decisions based on the particular circumstances. And in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is a huge gain and a huge W for us. Of course I support it. Well, Hassan did not do it. That's the point. Because in the interview, Matt called it a genocide. He said Israel is doing a genocide in the interview. He didn't do liberal Zionism in the interview. He did one part where they talked about his definition of liberal Zionism. And Matt said that there are progressive liberal Zionists who believe in a binationalist state who would identify as Zionist, and he thinks they're not bad people. And then Hassan went on and disagreed with him and said, actually, that doesn't represent Israel anymore. It was a conversation. If you want people to be disagreeable 24/7, you're being schizophrenic. Assad supports Turkish fascism. Turkish gray wolf sign. He knows what it is. See, the thing is, chat, when Badapadada criticized me over my dumb thing I said with what I misspoke and said, that was completely legitimate. That was completely fine. I apologize for it. We shouldn't use tropes, but like, this is just calling Hassan a liberal Zionist. Is you're now entering a spiral of contentiousness and barrelness where you're not actually doing anything of constructive worth. He tweeted about me too. Yeah, I saw that. He's angry that he kept asking me to go on his stream, but I ignored it because what the fuck of point of talking to Mike from PI? I mean, he talked to me before, and I wouldn't have asked him to go on. I wouldn't ask him to go on my stream because he's Twitch banned. So he would get me banned if I brought him on my stream. I said, hey, we should do something, because again, I try to support people that I consider to my left. Even if I don't agree with them on everything, I try to support people who I consider to my left. I don't left punch. But I also don't think that I think that the Ugopnik and the guys over at the Deprogram podcast have it right, which is we have a pipeline, and Badapadada doesn't believe in a pipeline. He doesn't believe in creating solidarity. He doesn't believe that you should have solidarity with other content creators online. He doesn't think that we're building anything that is worth caring about, and it's only about making money for yourself. Now, if that's not the most liberal ass fucking conception I've ever heard, I don't know what is. For me, I see this as no different as radio programs or pamphlets or newspapers used to, make in the past, television programs. We are just the modern mass media. I don't understand why we would trash each other over minor disagreements. I think we should work together, build each other up, and try to focus our audiences to real life organizing. And we should be propaganda for the movements that are existing on the ground. And we should try to take up space on the airwaves that is sympathetic to left-wing organizations and left-wing movements and left-wing arguments. That's what I see my role as. Not as some sort of God King or Taylor Swift, but rather I'm just providing a space where we could do this propaganda. I know for a fact that Badapadada didn't watch the video because he didn't have time to watch the video. It was a stream day, and he had to make a slop video. BE reacted to G Squirrel's tweet, and that's why this video exists. He's not this stupid. He had slop. He just had to make slop for YouTube. Yeah, he's not going to admit he didn't watch the interview. He's not going to admit he didn't watch the video before he made his drama slop. He went off a Z Squirrel thread, and you know what? I don't mind that Z Squirrel is mad at Bernie Sanders and these people. I get it. I feel the same way. I'm extremely pissed off. I'm extremely disgusted. But where it crosses the line is when you just make shit up about people. And he has no problem. He has absolutely no problem slandering us. And like, I legitimately feel like we should be purging Zionists from our spaces like DSA. I don't think there should be any tolerance for Zionism in DSA and socialist spaces. But when we're talking about the popular front, when we're talking about figure out a way to stop the genocide, if somebody was formerly a Zionist and they no longer are, and they agree with me about the genocide, and they agree with me that Palestinians are starving, I want those people to be able to change their mind. I want to incentivize people to change their mind to save the Palestinian people.
to certain things, and they see themselves in the person that's getting yelled at. And I think if our goal is to be as open-minded and as like broad and
Adam Panada is kind of just farming Hassan because he doesn't really care if it hurts the American left, because I think he just views the American left as a joke, so he doesn't really care if he hurts it, even though these actions do help the American left as a joke. Basically, Adam Panada believes that America is about to collapse because of Trump, which is a dumb fucking take, which is a dumb take. It is not. What is going to happen is institutional norms in both the US and the world are being stripped, and the US is going to act in a more traditional imperialist manner where we are more aggressive and more warlike, and we destroy international institutions of humanitarian law. That's not going to make the world better. That's not going to make the space better for leftist movements around the world. If anything, America will be more interventionist to prevent left-wing movements throughout the world, throughout the third world. It's the opposite of reality.
Create a movement that is as large as possible, which is a necessity for any sort of change. Then, we have to be a little bit more careful, I think, of the way that we look. This doesn't mean that like someone can just overnight be like, I'm a good person now, and then everyone should just like eat that shit up. That's not what I'm saying either. I think, you should remember what people's positions were in the moments when it was necessary for them to also push. I think it's ultimately not a massively consequential nor relevant conversation that took place between me and Matt Duss, and I think people are going a little crazy over it. That's it. I think you're a bit hypocritical. I like you a lot, but you'll constantly say I'm not a journalist, but constantly try to be one. And when people criticize you for doing poor journalism, you'll use the fact that you say you're not a journalist as a crutch. I think you just already admitted that you recognize that I'm not a journalist, and that at no point have I actually said I was a journalist. You think I'm trying to be a journalist when I have conversations with people, when I never am trying to be a journalist. You literally just got mad because of perceived hypocrisy.
By the way, journalist is a made-up title. There is no like order of the journalists where you suddenly bestow somebody with journalism title. It's made up. It's made up. You can call yourself a journalist if you want. You can call yourself a financial advisor if you want. It's made up.
That comes along with something that I never said I was, that you think I'm actually trying to do. That's the issue. You've said you do journalism. Yes. The times where I do quote unquote things of journalistic value, in spite of not being a journalist, talking to someone who is like in Gaza, for example, okay, going out to a protest and filming the protest from the perspective of the protesters, or, things that happen to me that have broader consequences for society, or a conversation with like Mahmoud Khalil, or going out and interviewing the firefighters, the California prisoner firefighters that are combating wildfires. Like, those are things that have journalistic value. That's not all I do. That's not most of what I do.
I think the only point that I would say was legitimate was, hey, in the future, if you're going to have somebody who had bad takes about Israel in the past, who has now changed their view, you should have a segment where you talk to them about what was their process to changing their position on Israel. Do they regret those old positions? And what do they say to people that haven't made the switch yet about why it's so necessary to make the switch now? I think that is a good criticism and something for us to think about in the future. It's and there's a reason why it's being boosted by Destiny and H3H3, because they just want to cause damage. Mike, I got banned from Hutch's chat yesterday for saying that Hassan got tear gassed at an IRL protest because he was saying Hassan never does anything revolutionary or IRL. I mean, Hassan just went to the DSA convention. He was just at multiple LA protests. I mean, these people don't care about the truth. And this is where my neurodivergence really kicks in. I care about the truth. I don't like lying on people. I don't even really like lying on Destiny. The thing about Destiny is I hate him because of who he actually is. I don't like lying on people. And so when somebody lies about AOC, that bothers me. I'm like, no, that didn't happen. If you want to criticize AOC, criticize her for real shit. Don't make up stuff. You want to criticize Bernie Sanders, criticize him for real shit. Don't make stuff up.
do. That's just what I do, having the function of journalism. But I don't say I'm a journalist. I say I'm a political commentator. You know, I play basketball. I'm not a basketball player. Look, there's going to be a million different opinions and a million different voices. Many of them are going to be contentious. I talk about politics. Politics is always going to be a contentious subject. A lot of people either A, treat it like it's drama and love the back and forth that takes place in that regard, or B, understandably play it close to their chest. And so when they hear something that they might have misunderstood or didn't fully comprehend or completely disagree with, outright disagree with, all of a sudden this is like a world shaking event. It's a world breaking event for themselves. Like, oh, this guy who I thought, you know, had my best interest in mind, I disagree with him on this one thing, whether it's because I might have misunderstood it or because I just have a vehement disagreement on this issue. This is really
I think one of the things that really bothers me about all of these about the nature and tenor of what's going on in Hassan's orbit over the past month or so is that there are a lot of people who are now incentivized to do the anti-Hassan and to a much lesser extent anti-Mike grift, but from the left. And these people are trying to profit from the anti-Hassan, anti-Mike grift. They're trying to get right-wing views while pretending to be left-wing. That's what's actually happening. There is a large parasocial group of people that are desperate for any attacks to be happening against Hassan, and they will platform you and boost you if you make any kind of attack. And I don't believe that anybody could be confused about that after last year. Like, if you just look at the Hassan slop industrial complex, there is a bunch of people who are trying to create one from the left. And it's embarrassing, and it needs to be called out. How much do you feel this grift was exacerbated by the Lolo situation? I mean, the Lolo situation is what made this community feel vulnerable, right? Because we had a predator in the community who was abusing his position, who was abusing the small amount of fame that he was getting in order to go after people, right? But that was not something that Hassan participated in or was aware of. It was somebody on their own going around and abusing whatever small amount of celebrity or notoriety that they had. And bad behavior like that is going to happen. You can judge the quality of a community with their response. And our response was to immediately remove Lolo expeditiously. As soon as people were aware of the behavior, everybody worked in concert to make this community safe and to deny him access to our space. It was excised immediately. But when you have a space that has millions of people are in it, there's going to be some predators. How you respond to those predators is what's important. You're going to have malignancies within the community. And there are going to be people that we trust who abuse that trust. And the worst thing that you could do is to become withdrawn. I don't think Bada Banana is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think he just seriously doesn't give a shit about me, Hassan, the American left, or Americans in general. He wants to make money on YouTube, and that's that. I think he has, when he makes when he makes main channel videos, I think they're good. But I think that as far as the way he interacts to the streaming space, he acts in a way where he just, honestly to God, doesn't give a shit about anyone else. And he doesn't care about Americans. I am an American. My family, a large portion of it is American. I want the American left to succeed because I want American lives to be better. And I want America to stop doing imperialism around the world. He doesn't give a shit about America. In fact, he wants Americans to suffer for all the crimes we've committed. And I understand that impulse. Betrays a childish view of the universe. We don't live in a just world. Most criminals and most victimizers get away with it. Most evil empires, the people who profited, the capitalists who profit, they go to bed on a mattress of imported goose down. They slip away in a opioid-induced haze of pleasure, surrounded by sycophants and loved ones. That's reality. We don't live in a just world. Things don't bend toward justice, except we bend it. They get away with it because we haven't achieved socialism yet. We haven't achieved change yet. We haven't bent the world toward justice yet. All right. And here we have Matt Mearsheimer and Duss debating on Ukraine, on Democracy Now! Does Democracy Now! Need to apologize? Or do we recognize the utility of having these conversations? It's weird how people act towards these political streams. If the content of what Hassan is saying is promoting Zionism on the face of it, that is a place to criticize. If Hassan-Duss was still saying that it was denying the Israeli genocide, I would want Hassan to confront him, and he would. To be fair, Bad and Panada probably thinks Democracy Now! Is CIA backed or something. Yeah, but he likes Noam Chomsky. Jeffrey Epstein's pal, Noam Chomsky. Amazing. All right, I'm tired of talking so much. I'm going to watch Michael Byrne's Real Problem with the Left, because this needs to happen. We need to have more of these conversations, and we need to stop allowing
this would be pretty simple.
We need to stop allowing the tyranny of the annoying, which is people coming in here to try to hijack my platform or Hassan's platform for their own soapbox issue, and they don't participate in organizing. They don't participate in the community. They feel entitled to our platform. Fuck you. If you want, by the way, I am not. There are many issues that I care about that are not getting a lot of play. Like what's going on in Sudan, what's going on in Sri Lanka, what is going on in the UAE, what's been going on in Yemen, what's been going on in Latin America, what's going on in Bolivia today. There's a lot of issues that I care about and I talk about that mainstream audiences don't care about. But
once I started working on the video and talking to some of the folks I work with, we realized that the left means very different things depending on who says it. For example, recently ContraPoints used both the left and the online left in her statement on Gaza to accuse them of either facilitating anti-Semitism or being unrealistic about the possibility of getting Israel to stop doing genocide. Can you one day
speak about how we could deal with rising fascism in Europe and how we should present the left? I believe in the projects that Corbyn and Mélenchon are putting out. I feel like you need to have you need to be ready, because the fascists are going to fail. Like, they're not going to succeed in making the countries better. They're going to exacerbate the problems. And so you need to have a left that is in waiting, ready to seize power.
Like that. Lots of people have talked about this. You don't need to take from me. For the liberal architects of abundance, the left seems to mean podcasters or cranky academics who think that their ideas don't hold up to scrutiny. And of course, there is a host of YouTube videos that claim to speak about some amorphous entity that is called the online left. And for others, of course, the left just means anyone who is anti-Trump, a group that includes both neoliberals and anti-fascists. Words do mean things, so I still wanted to make this video about the history and philosophy of the thing called the left, as I think understanding that history can better inform this general confusion. And in thinking through this topic alongside recently reading the work of theorist Anna Kornbluh, I think that the confusion about what is and isn't the left actually reveals a much deeper problem about what happens when our politics are something that we primarily discuss via social media platforms. I'll say more about this later, but it seems that when we don't utilize leftist political organizations or leftist philosophies to better understand contemporary debates, we risk fueling the content machine more than we are fueling a larger leftist.
And by the way, if you think that I'm wrong, if you think that Bad and Panada's attacks against Hassan make sense, I want you to present the arguments with the context of saying we in the future we want to make sure that if somebody has changed their position on the Gaza genocide, that we spend more time interrogating that in the future. And like somebody like part of the reason why Z Squirrel is so harsh against Bernie Sanders is because they used to love Bernie Sanders. And they feel like Bernie Sanders' failure to lead the way on the Palestinian issue during the genocide has caused them to have a rupture with Bernie Sanders, with that prior self. They feel ashamed that they helped Bernie Sanders. So there's an emotional element to it. And they're right. Bernie Sanders should have done more.
Just a political project. Hey, just a heads up, this is going to be a more casual one. It's just us having a conversation. So grab a beverage. Join me. Okay, so let's start with the origin of the term the left. Now, it comes from the French Revolution, as those who supported the revolution sat on the left side of the assembly. And the French Revolution forever shifted our conceptions of leftist politics and philosophy. It represented a radical shift away from a politics centered around monarchy and sovereignty, and towards a project that viewed the people themselves as their own sovereign power. The most political philosophy 101 version of this shift is that you had someone like Thomas Hobbes, right? And he thought that politics only worked when there is a sovereign leader in charge to keep all of us from killing each other, because in our natural state, humans are just power-hungry freaks. And the price of this safety was sacrificing our own freedom and will and then transferring them to a sovereign power. In opposition to this, you get someone like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who thought that in our state of nature, humans were actually good and chill. It's society that makes us into a bunch of little assholes. Now, rather than an all-powerful sovereign, Rousseau viewed the government as the representative of the...
I think Hassan's reluctance to break with the Dems, I don't think Hassan is reluctant to break with the Dems. That's just not correct. Hassan and I's position, and I feel very comfortable saying this, is we want a third party. We want a dirty break, but it hasn't happened yet. So because it hasn't happened, I'm going to support good candidates who back the positions we want to back when they're running in Democratic primaries, because we want to increase the number of elected officials that agree with us on policy. And we want to put pressure on the Democratic Party from the left, sort of like a left-wing Tea Party. And just like Jeremy Corbyn didn't start a third party until he was kicked out of the Labour Party, it may take a little bit while longer for that third party to cook. But I'm not going to stand around and be an abstentionist when somebody as good as Zoran is running.
Will of the people. So rather than sacrificing freedom so that the government or that a sovereign has power,
we'll watch
we
that fishbowl after
sacrifice
this.
our individual will for the sake of the collective will. And while Rousseau himself was not calling for violent revolution, his ideas helped shape the political philosophy that did fuel the French Revolution. We see this in the three words that characterized the project of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, and fraternity. Now, what made the French Revolution a leftist political project is that it didn't seek to modify a pre-existing political system. It aimed to destroy that which existed for the sake of something new. You know, the goal wasn't to reform a broken system, but to burn the whole damn thing to the ground. And this is in opposition to a right-wing position, which in the case of the French Revolution meant those who supported a monarchy. In the case of modern conservative politics, according to Corey Robin, means preserving existing hierarchies in the face of the expansion of democracy. In both of these cases, to be on the right is to be a counter-revolution.
I really like the reactionary mind. If you ever wanted a good survey of right-wing philosophy, The Reactionary Mind by Corey Robin is a really great and easy read. And then you can learn about kind of, I think he talks about everybody from Hobbes to Oakeshott. So it's really, really, really good for that if you want to kind of like understand right-wing thought and why it's literally the same shit.
So if the left wants to expand freedom and human self-determination, the right strives for order and control to preserve the status quo. We can further understand the meaning of the left via the work of Polish philosopher and historian Leszek Kolakowski. Yes, I know this guy was later in life a critic of Marxism. Okay, you don't gotta fact check me. You know, I know a few things. According to Kolakowski, the left is a movement of negation toward the existing world. For this very reason, it is, as we have seen, a constructive force. It is simply a quest for change. And Kolakowski notes that a utopian spirit motivates this desire for negation, writing that, thus the left is defined by its negation. But not only by this, it is also defined by the direction of this negation. In fact, by the nature of its utopia. In opposition to this, he calls the essence of the right the affirmation of existing conditions. So the politics, and as I'm going to talk about in a second, the philosophy that traces its lineage to the French Revolution aims at the radical expansion of human freedom and liberty and the destruction of existing systems which oppress this freedom. This is why institutions that seek to reaffirm what already exists or to reform existing systems of power are always going to be on the right. And that includes the Democratic Party and a number of liberal nonprofit organizations that might advocate for things that are good and cool. Now, on the other hand, groups historically aligned with the labor movement, socialist and communist politics, anti-colonial movements, and the like, are connected to that revolutionary leftist history as they seek the negation of currently existing systems and the creation of new systems that reaffirm human freedom, equality, and self-determination. You know, shout out to the Black Panthers, shout out the Zapatistas, shout out your favorite revolutionary movement in the comments. So if you and your friends wanted to do leftist politics, well, a good step is getting involved in an existing political organization grounded in these types of shared political principles. It's also why referring to those organizations and those involved in them as the left actually makes sense. Now, I'm going to say
the main thing that I think Michael is not bringing up here, which is at exactly what point is something reform and at exactly what point is something constructing something new, right? That's a blurry line. right? Is Medicare for all reform, or is it building a new structure, a new thing? I would say that Medicare for all is a perfect example of something that straddles that line completely. It is revolutionary, but it's also fundamentally in line with the existing system. It's just the most extreme reform of the existing system that you can make. But it would be revolutionary from the perspective of humanity. If you were just entitled to healthcare because you needed it as a right, that is revolutionary.
Say more about this in the final section of this video, but these sorts of organizations are necessary to help us make sense of our own political will and desires, and to figure out how to both think and act more strategically towards our shared political goals. In other terms, they help to mediate our political will so that we're participating.
The main difference between me and somebody like Bad Empanada is I believe in solidarity and he doesn't. Right? Like, that's the main difference. Like, you're not going to see me trashing people and making shit up. Like, I am not going to trash Hassan on made up shit. I'll disagree with Hassan. When I disagree with Hassan, I do it in a solidaristic way. I don't do it in a confrontational way. I don't do it in a over the top way. Why? Because he's my colleague and he's my comrade, and we've been working together for fucking what is it now, 6-7 years. And I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I didn't realize he was actually a racist. You know what I mean? Like, we've been working together for years. I'm not like, if he makes some mistake, I'm going to defend him because that's just solidarity. I'm not going to let one mistake destroy somebody who has worked so hard for somebody good. There is this kind of inquisitorial, narcissistic discard is what it's called. That happens in the online left. Where it's like, oh, I think we have an example of where this person made a mistake. Let's throw them in the trash. Let's ignore the context of what makes them a human being. Let's ignore everything that they've done because we finally found one reason to throw them in the trash. And that is social media liberal culture. It's sensationalist. It is anti-solidaristic. It is fucking garbage. The Bolsheviks were not big on solidarity. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. Their main problem was that the more liberal versions of the project to reform Russia were showing solidarity with capital, not with the worker.
And projects that have a clear aim. If political parties, organizations, and unions are one version of the actually existing left, the other side is leftist philosophy, which also traces its roots to the French Revolution, which precipitated radical shifts in European philosophy and gave us a lot of our favorite contemporary left-wing thinkers. Okay, so I'm going to summarize a bunch of things very quickly right here. So apologies to any scholars of 19th century European political philosophy who feel let down. But if any of those people are watching this, hey, what's up? Share some of your favorite readings with us. But here's a bullet point summary of how we got from the French Revolution to modern leftist philosophy. Now, arguably the most important figure in modern European philosophy, Immanuel Kant, was supportive of the ideas of the French Revolution while also being against the idea of revolution. You know, to put it differently, he wanted revolution in thought, but not in these streets. And he was basically a cop at the political level, but at the level of thought, he was really into the idea of freedom that's represented by the revolution. You know, Kant thinks that human thought is capable of way more than we previously realized. And for him, freedom enables the individual to assert their own autonomy, which is based in the authority of reason available to all. You know, he thinks that using your own understanding for yourself is necessary for truly realizing freedom as an adult. Now, in the wake of Kant, we get the German idealist, most notably Hegel. Hegel thought that the revolution represented something important in human history and thought. You know, Hegel is like less of a cop than Kant, but he still wasn't super based. And for Hegel, the French Revolution is a moment of dialectical contradiction, where the old world comes into conflict with the spirit of a new age, leading to an advancement in history, which, to be clear, is good. Jumping ahead a bit, Marx picks up Hegel's dialectic, he puts it down, he flips it, and he reverses it, so that rather than ideas shaping history, history shapes our modes of thought. It's a shift from idealism to materialism. And in many ways, to be leftist after Marx means
By the way, chat, Marx believed that our ideas affected us, that it wasn't just like some sort of mechanical materialism, that everything gets pours out of just like these relations, but that there was ideas working on the system and the system working on ideas in a fashion where they were constantly changing each other, and that the power of ideas could not be denied. That's where the idea of class consciousness comes from, right? Once you're aware of your class position, then you could start working in solidarity with people that are in the same position as you. If you don't have class consciousness, then you just see them as worker competition.
To be a materialist and to locate political conflict and contradiction in historical and material conditions, not just in the realm of ideas. While not every leftist thinker takes this stance, for many, the dialectic you get via Hegel and Marx is essential for doing left-wing philosophy. Now, much of the radical political philosophy in the 20th century further reckons with Marx, constructively and critically, whether that's the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory, you get someone like Frantz Fanon's radical post-colonial thought, Jean-Paul Sartre's attempt to think Marxism and existentialism at the same time, a whole host of feminist and queer and anti-colonial indigenous thinkers, all using this type of thinking to push things forward. Now, if the French Revolution was the big bang of leftist philosophy, then the events of May 68 in Paris added some fuel to that fire and gave us the work of folks like Etienne Balibar, Jacques Rancière, and Alain Badiou. This same lineage eventually gets us to very popular non-French thinkers like Slavoj Žižek and Frederick Jameson. Also, quick note.
By the way, chat, speaking of thinkers, I am cooking up 2 amazing new projects that you guys are going to have a hard time believing. 2 amazing new projects in solidarity with people that I think have shown themselves over the long term to both be principled and normal. We are going to have some amazing, amazing stuff coming for you. I'm going to need all of you guys to promote it. I'm going to need all of you guys to come watch. It's going to be a lot of fun. Are you excited? I'm also, chat, today is the day. Today was the day that I said, I'm getting back in the gym. Swoletariat Mike begins today. Swoletariat Mike begins today, and 2 more projects in addition to the stream. We are leveling up. Bro, you've been saying that for 4 years? Well, today's the day. Today's the day it starts. A fascist worked out today. Did you? The answer will be yes. I am not going to be doing any gym collaborations with anybody until I can actually put up respectable numbers, which I currently am untrained. So let's just be honest, okay? Let's just be honest, okay? And then when I get on TRT, because I'm old, you'll be benching 225 before you know it. We'll see. We'll see. It'll be a minute. Mike, that's not being old. I started Mike because you have to be strong. I don't want to be a hypocrite, chat. I'm getting in the gym. I've already lost 30 some pounds, but now is the time to hit the gym. I think I was like 33 pounds or something like that. So now is time. Like, let's get back.
I'm running a Frederick Jameson reading group over on my Patreon. I'm doing hour-and-a-half seminars every other week. We are reading text together, talking about the ideas. It's something that's accessible, I think, whether or not you have a background in reading theory. So if that sounds interesting to you, there's a link to my Patreon in the description. It's available at every level. So check it out if you want. It's been very fun thus far. Now, the important thing here isn't that all of these figures think the exact...
Beeper says, I can make you a program if you're interested. Sure. I don't know anything about supplements. Well, I mean, I have a general idea, but I don't have a plan. You know what I mean? Supplements. What do you guys recommend as far as like calorie counting, macro counting? That would be helpful. Suppies are all fake. No, they're not. No, they're not. Creatine and protein are objectively work. Like, that's just silly. I'm not going to get on trend until, I hit some sort of plateau, which will not take long. It would be so funny if I got super built. If I get super duper built, it's going to be exciting, chat. Just don't you wait. Don't you wait, chat. It'll be very exciting. There's a few people. My protein shake is of sprouted oats, chia seeds, whey protein, collagen protein, frozen blueberries, and grass-fed milk.
Same things, but that they share a tradition of influence and critique. ultimately aiming at a similar political future. Now, this is important as when we're doing the intellectual work of the left, we can participate in this tradition of thought rather than reinventing the wheel, which often ends badly anyways. I previously mentioned Kolakowski's idea.
If you get super built, will we finally get the hot tub stream? Yes, of course. I'm a narcissist. It's like, duh.
That the left is defined by the nature of its utopia and often its philosophy that can help give us the glimpse of utopian possibility that can then orient our thought in the present. And this all brings us back to our current moment when the left and the online left feel completely disconnected from much of this historical and intellectual context. To take the ContraPoint statement, for example, she doesn't refer to any political organizations or groups as the left. You know, the closest that she gets to is to name the leftist pro-Palestinian movement, which she explicitly critiques for an opposition to Zionism, I think. And she doesn't mention any specific ideologies at play leading to the type of bad leftism that she describes. Now, I bring all of this up to say that so often when we're talking about the left or the online left or leftist content, what's being described is something that's more like a cultural brand than something recognizable as working within the history of the term. You know, while the term sometimes simply becomes anyone to the left of me who I happen not to like, such that even ContraPoints has been identified as on the left by other more right-wing detractors. Ultimately, what being on the left tends to mean in this context is participating in a particular form of cultural aesthetics associated with a specific group of podcast or YouTube channels or meme accounts. I recently spoke with literary theorist Anna Kornbluh about her book Immediacy, and I think her ideas can help us make some sense of the issues with how we think about what it means to be on the left, especially in a digital context. Now, according to Kornbluh, our culture is dominated by a sense of immediacy, meaning that cultural products like social media posts and YouTube videos manifest visceral and immediate emotional responses from us without leaving any space for critique or a more
all right, chat, I just realized something. If you enjoy this content, we forgot the show. We're at, you know, it's the weekend, chat. We got banned for 7 days. So the sub count is struggling. The sub count is struggling because I wasn't making content. Feels bad, man. So if you enjoy the content, if you like the fact that I can be normal, if you like the fact that we don't make everything into drama and we don't like throw people under the bus for a single tweet or for just making shit up about them and then trying to like retroactively justify it to save face. If you like the fact that I will swim against the current and I won't just go along with whatever the Twitter narrative is or the Discord narrative of the day, if you actually want somebody who is principled, somebody who cares about building something from the online left while also having fun. I like having this space. I like making this content. I like having all of you here to discuss it. If you actually enjoy that kind, if you value that kind of space, please consider supporting me by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. Ham and Fist, thank you for the 20 bomb. Plunger Man, thank you for the 5. Gandalf, thank you for the tier 3 for 50 months with the VO dancing. Tepo Man, Con Man, thank you for the 5. Calm Like a Tom, thank you for the 20 bomb. How you doing, Tom? How you doing, brother? What a difficult couple of weeks, huh, chat? What a difficult month. I think it's been very frustrating, you know? It's been, you know, after Zoran, we had that moment where the vibes were shifting. We had that high off of Zoran winning. And then ever since then, the vibes have just been fucking terrible. So let's turn, you know, I heard a friend of mine told me that 5 planets in the astrological, 5 planets in the astrological charts, or what is it called where they're like going down in the astrological charts? Retrograde. Yeah, I think 5 major planets were in retrograde. Thank you. So now that period is over, I guess it's prograde, right? Retrograde and prograde. I guess the retrograde period, the stars are fucked, but now they're starting to turn around. We need a syzygy? Hell yeah, we do. I would argue most of the bad vibes have been contained to the online sphere. True. So thank you all for supporting the stream. It really does mean a lot. Remember, the top sub gifter and the top bit donor could get the conductor badge next to their name, which is a golden locomotive. What leftist doesn't like trains, chat? If you're a leftist and you don't like trains, I question your leftism. I question it. You could get a golden locomotive next to your name for as little as 200 bits. Lost 300 subs in the last few days. What happens? It's called not streaming. You know, you take a couple days off. That's what happens. You don't know what it's like to be a streamer. Basically, your subs go down every single day you don't make content. People do not come to your stream on the day off and drop you a bunch of subs. They subscribe to you while you're making content. So when I was banned for 7 days, that means 7 days of people not being able to subscribe. And then if I take 2 days off for the weekend, then, you know, subscriptions fall off. So that's 9 days this month in the last 3 weeks that I wasn't streaming. So that equals a lot of money.
Complex understanding. In more technical terms, and we'll get into this, there's no space for mediation. Now, mediation, unlike immediacy, is the social activity by which we can make sense of the world and
We're
create
at 780
meaning.
right now.
You know, it's a way of understanding the complex relations between things and ideas. And it can also help avoid falling into the trap of emotionally fueled hot takes and reactions. Now, if we apply Kornbla's analysis to this discussion of the left, it seems like lots of debates around what is leftist is just about the reactions or affects immediately produced by various cultural objects. So when it comes to being an online leftist, this might be one who reacts in the right way to the right posts and videos and utilizes the correct memes and maybe even occasionally leaves the house to show up to the right protests, making some content while they're there. But all of this is done without either A, mediating these ideas and activities through actually existing leftist political organizations, or B, the mediation of concepts or ideas from leftist political philosophy to help us properly analyze the situation.
And that's what I try to do the opposite of. That Michael Burns has basically explained why I try to take the immediacy of the online left by making a stream, reacting to the discourse of the day, and then channel you all toward joining real organizations in your community, whether that's DSA, whether that's PSL, whether that's even a progressive group near you. That is my entire project. I'm wearing a DSA fucking shirt from DSA LA because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take all of you and inculcate you with actual ideas, actual leftist practice, and I want to encourage you to get out there and do shit while also serving as this space needs. We need propagandists. We need messaging. We need solidarity. We need somebody who is going to teach people shit and be open to teaching people. And I don't want to hold over your mistakes over your head. What I hate more than anything right now, chat, what I hate more than anything right now is the fact that people try to pretend that people cannot change. You absolutely are allowed to change. I want people to change. I want people that used to have bad takes to change their mind. Now, there's a few people that are elites that I want to hold accountable. The people that knew better. But regular people, come on in. The water's fine. I don't consider myself, I'm not trying to be a leftist to be cool. This is not a lifestyle for me. I want you to become a leftist so that we can change the fucking world. And to change the world, we need everyone we can get. Dutch, thank you for the 5, the check. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for all the subs, gifts. Appreciate you. We are dangerously close. We're 11 subs away from 5,800. So if we can hit that, that'll be nice. I appreciate you. Let's finish this video.
In other words, our political identities, especially in a digital context, are replicating this type of immediacy, one that Kornbla associates with what she calls too late.
It comes to, what is your, where do you draw the line when it comes to being accepting of people changing their opinions and actions? For example, I'm troubled by the GHF whistleblower since he was a merc. This is one of the funniest things. Great question, but it's funny. You can only ask that question if you're not very informed on revolution. The answer is, I would be willing to accept somebody who was previously under arms as an enemy as long as they pointed their gun at the enemies of socialism now. Like if somebody, if the 82nd Airborne rolled up to my fucking apartment and said, Mike, lead the revolution, I would say, welcome, brothers. Welcome, comrades. Welcome, friends. And I would jump onto a fucking M1 Abrams and we would roll down the fucking street. That is the correct answer. I want to talk to you specifically about what I mean. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Here's Fen Wu Zhang, a Chinese general, vice premier of the Republic of China. Although he was never a communist himself, he was close to them in his final years. He died in 1948 in a shipboard fire on the Black Sea while en route to the Soviet Union along with one of his daughters. Some believe he was murdered by his political adversaries, while others reject this theory. Allegedly, those who claim to know the details of that fateful night and reported that Feng and his daughter perished because their cabin door was locked from the outside. Chinese communists under Mao Zedong classified Feng as a good warlord, and his remains were buried with honors in 1953 at the Sacred Mount Tai in Shandong. Like, this is what I'm literally talking about. Like, Mao would accept a guy who was like a fucking warlord switching sides. So is Mao fucking not a communist? Is he not a socialist now because he allowed people to switch sides to join in? Like, it's baby tier shit to be like, this guy is whistleblowing about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and disrupting the propaganda efforts of people like Ethan Klein, who are trying to launder it as some sort of humanitarian organization. And he's pointing out that American and Israeli mercenaries are murdering people, and he's giving direct testimony. I don't know if we should accept that guy who's taking a tremendous personal risk to fight for what's right. Are you okay?
democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York. Juan Gonzalez is in Chicago. President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are meeting today in Alaska for a high-stakes summit to discuss a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. At the White House, Trump predicted Friday's summit.
Oh, this is what we were watching. I'm sorry, this is the wrong video. I don't know why I clicked this. There it is.
Capitalism. Now, while the book doesn't focus primarily on political theory, in an interview, Kornbluh makes clear that the two are related. In it, she says, nonetheless, the book absolutely tries to indicate that the style of immediacy governs the tactical and ideological preferences for horizontalism, localism, anarcho-spontaneity, anti-unionism, and the lack of disciplined organization on the left. The latter is often replaced by cults of charisma, virulent opinionism, and anti-institutionalism. All of these trends can be observed on the political left and right. Now, this style of political immediacy, one that I think is very much exemplified in online political discourse, leads to immediate actions and reactions, usually without the mediation of political organizations or philosophies. As Kornbluh notes, rather than disciplined leftist organizations, we focus on charisma, virulent opinionism, and anti-institutionalism. And against this type of immediate leftism, I think we need to make sure we're embracing the left as a particular political and philosophical orientation with a clear set of shared principles. And we need to utilize leftist organizations and thinkers to help us mediate our understanding of and response to the political and social crises that we're currently experiencing. In this way, leftist organizations can help us more strategically engage in collective political action, and leftist political philosophies can help us to step back from the compulsive reactivity of the internet to more carefully understand the world and ourselves. Now, to be clear here, as someone who sees themselves as being, on the left and who also creates content on this platform, I think many of the folks who are considered to be the online left absolutely rule and are making things that go a really long way in helping folks feel less alienated and insane. Thank you for doing it. We salute you. I just worry that internet culture has the insidious effect of leading us to conflate individual critique with structural critique. I know that I have definitely fallen into that trap before.
And do you think that what was happening to Hassan today was structural critique? Do you think it was really a critique of what Hassan did? Or was it something that is incentivized by the algorithm because you're doing anti-Hassan slop tube? I think it's pretty fucking crazy to see Ethan Klein and Destiny retweeting what you're doing and then going, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Like, if they thought that what you were doing was promoting the left, they would be attacking you.
One way we can think of it, and I want to shout out the homies Lux and Dave for helping me on this point, is that discipline and ideological coherence are often sacrificed when so much time is spent policing the leftism of various individuals. Because so many folks in the online left community agree about 90-95% of things, publicly squabbling over the remaining 5 or 10% can sometimes be counterproductive. This is another instance where the mediation of an organization can be helpful. as ideological debate can be useful in the context of a group of people organized around a specific political project. But when that debate spills into the creation of content that's ultimately just being monetized and reduplicated by algorithms, it's not getting us any closer to collective action or ideological coherence. So, to quote one of the greatest online leftists to ever do the thing, the late great Michael Brooks, let's remember to be ruthless with systems and kind to individuals. If you do want to hear more about Anna Kornblah's work, check out my recent interview with her over on the Sideburns channel, and check out her book Immediacy, published by our friends over at Verso. If you like the idea of digging into leftist philosophical ideas in more depth, consider signing up for my Patreon, where I recently started up a Frederick Jameson reading group, where we're doing seminar-style sessions breaking down the work of arguably the most important leftist academic that America has ever produced. Thanks for hanging out for this one. I wanted it to feel a little bit more casual and conversational. Hopefully it did. And finally, just a huge shout out to everyone for watching, and an extra special shout out to all of my patrons. Your support means so much. You're helping me build this channel out. You're helping me pay the people that work with me to make stuff that we believe in. So know that myself and a bunch of other folks really appreciate you. I'll catch you guys next time for a video about maybe my favorite book ever. Maybe. Come back and check that out.
And like, this is when people talk about, well, how nice should we be to people that switch sides? In the revolution in China, at the moment of victory, the Second Fleet of the Republic of China Navy and the Nationalist Forces in Xinjiang soon switched sides to the communists, allowing the People's Liberation Army to penetrate through nationalist defenses along the Yangtze River. They were accepting thousands and thousands of people who had been fighting against them the day before. But the moment those people were like, you know what? You were right. I was wrong. I want to fight for you. They said, welcome, comrade. The same guy who had been shooting at them the day before. The reason why Mao won is because they were willing to accept that people can change their fucking mind. They were not retributive. They were like, come on in, and we will reward you. It'll benefit you. And when people saw that by switching sides to the left, they would be rewarded, they would achieve freedom, they would achieve liberation, they wanted to switch. If it's the opposite, oh, switch so we could all yell at you and humiliate you and treat you like shit, no one's gonna switch to that. And the communists didn't give up anything. They didn't give up their values. The only thing they gave up was their desire for vengeance and revenge. They believed in the universal human right to redemption. If you don't agree with that, if you don't believe in redemption, if you don't value it, I'm not saying that some people are beyond. There are some people who are beyond redemption. There really are. But if you're talking about somebody who did a crime and then comes out and speaks out against it, that person should be welcomed. All right. Okay. I think I got that out of my system. Let's watch some John Oliver, because I've been talking so much. I'm gonna lose my fucking voice. And by the way, I'm not saying we have to give up revenge or punishment. And some people are going to never switch. We're going to have plenty of enemies. Don't worry, you're not going to run out of enemies if you're a leftist. But I just tired of people doing anti-solidaristic shit for attention. I'm tired of people who their main way of organizing is tearing down what already exists that has been painstakingly built slowly over a decade. And I have withstood, I mean, when I was at 200, people talked about getting criticism, but I want to give you my perspective. When I was a 200 viewer Andy, I was getting attacked by Destiny, Moist Critical, PewDiePie. I was getting attacked by all sorts of right-wing grifters. Destiny. When I got to 400 viewers, I was attacked by Vosh. Before I had 1,000 live concurrent viewers, I was fighting the biggest fascists on the internet. PewDiePie eventually called me cool. Yeah, PewDiePie did eventually call me cool because I didn't react the way he expected me to. But it doesn't matter, right? Like, I get it. I've been getting stalked since I was a 200 viewer Andy. Stalked. And I understand that for some people, they came into the space that Hassan and I created, and we were very, very friendly. I was like, I've one of Liv Agar's first subscribers. I was one of Frogan's first subscribers. I was one of Truffle's first subscribers. I supported people when they came on here to make left-wing content. I was there. I've always been trying to welcome people. Yagopnik when he comes on here. Caroline when she came on here. I have always been trying to spread my platform, spread my support, and I asked for fucking nothing back. Adam Panada, I never asked for anything back. I promoted his videos because I thought they were good videos. Michael Burns promoted them for, Majority Report. All I've been doing since I've been on this platform is trying to make it a safer place for people and to share that space. And so I gotta tell you, it does bother me that Hassan and I, who have done so much to try to help people, get attacked in such a bad faith way. It is fucking annoying when it comes from our own side. I'm not saying don't criticize us. You absolutely should. Please do. Hassan is currently getting death threats from Destiny. They're trying to deplatform him over his take that an occupied population has the right to resist. You can't leave that aside because you want to call him a liberal Zionist. That's the context in which you live.
Our main story tonight.
Don't criticize in a way we don't like. Don't criticize in a way that is anti-solidaristic. Comrades are called in. Enemies are called out. I've seen this pattern of behavior of call-outs, and it's done for social media clout. If I have a problem with someone, I talk to them, especially if we have a pre-existing relationship. I will disagree with a take, but I won't make it about a person. I try to criticize productively, exactly, not destructively. And I see a lot of people that have been incentivized because of the anti-Hassan slop universe to attack Hassan non-constructively and then be like, I'm just doing it constructively. And it's like calling him a racist, calling him a liberal Zionist, calling me a racist, calling me an anti-Semite. Is that really constructive, or is that an attempt to destroy my credibility? Is that an attempt to exile us?
To release videos.
A blanket statement of saying you were being a racist, is it a great criticism? Pointing out you said something racist to act for a correction and learning is different. Well, that's because all of us say racist, misogynistic, homophobic things by accident or in it because those are the hegemonic systems of our society. All of us have bad takes or blind spots. We're all bound to do something that is offensive or a microaggression or wrong. Unofficial Denbo raid. Hey Denims people, welcome on in. We love Denims, very pro Denims here. We all have those blind spots, but when you say someone is an anti-Semite, when you say someone is a Nazi, when you say someone is a racist, what you're saying is they espouse those ideas intentionally. It's not that they made a take or said something that was offensive or wrong or was those tropes. It's that you are saying that it is the project that they are engaged in, that they are trying to create racial hierarchy. They are trying to create heteronormativity. They are trying to create misogyny. And when you call people those names, when you try to affix those labels are being affixed for the purposes of social ostracization. They are being affixed so that people stay away. They're being affixed so that people do not want to associate. It's a social game. And a lot of people will hide their intentions to well-meaning people by saying, oh, no, I'm just criticizing him. He's a powerful XYZ. I'm not powerful. I wish I was. I really wish I was powerful, but we're not. I'm trying to get us to that point. I have a little bit of clout on Twitch. That's about it. And just because there are streamers who look at my view count and go, that should be me, doesn't mean I'm powerful. 2 weeks there were leftist streamers on this platform. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice. 2 weeks there were leftist streamers on this platform going stream to stream calling Mike racist and demanded mass bans. That's not constructive critique. Yes, that's because they are. Those people you should not associate with somebody who did something like that. Can he not lift his arm? He can't do a shot? He was struggling to twist his arm. Have I shielded yet? I have. I'm 5 subs away from 5,800, so if you want to drop a 5 bomb, just saying. Just saying. I won't say no. And H Antifa, thank you for the tier 3. Welcome back.
Disgusting things floating around in RFK at any given time, right up there with that dead worm in his brain. But
Solar Bear, Comrade, Tubby Young Bro, and K-Biz if O Shizzle, thank you for the 5. Chat, we got him. The X from Y, it works every time. Well, tarantulas are like the least threatening of all the pets. You're more likely to need an ER visit from having a cat than you are from having a tarantula. These things are just they're little furry automatons. They're not a threat. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? A dog goes without saying. A dog is a murder machine. A dog is a medium-sized predator that you're inviting into your house that could one day just snap and your children don't stand a chance. And I love that medium-sized predator. He's my friend. I like that guy. But if he decided he wanted to kill a baby, he could do it instantly. Only if it's a pit bull? No, a golden retriever could kill a baby like that. A black lab could kill a baby like that. You're crazy. I don't think you've seen an 85-pound field Labrador retriever. Like, they're just nice. Their personality is nice. But if they have a bad day, you're fucking dog propaganda. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm being honest about dogs, which is if you own a dog, you have a serious animal that you have a big responsibility to properly train and socialize. Because if you fuck it up, they're dangerous. But if you do a good job, they're the best pet, in my opinion. Very, very basic male opinion. But I enjoy dogs. I like cats too. The thing is, dogs are a little bit more about you, where cats are more about their own shit. And they like you, but they're mostly on their own world, where dogs are very much oriented toward you. So, you know, a dog wants to be your buddy. Dogs are the fourth most deadly animal to humans. Of course they are. 25,000 people die from dogs a year? Really? That's a lot. Okay, this says 13,000. Snake is 75,000. Mosquito is 780,000. Humans kill other humans. So dogs are the fifth most dangerous animal to humans. Mosquitoes being number one. That makes sense. That's some real scientific rigor right there, chat. If that's not a perfect example of what fascism really is, just complete vibes. I mean, like when I listen to that, I just get violently angry. Like, I can't say what comes to my mind when I read something this fucking stupid from somebody who's supposed to represent one of our leading scientific minds. The essence of conservative brain is that they don't believe that you can just have good things be easy and cheap, right? Like they think that we can't just have health and prevent infectious disease by just giving people a quick shot when they're a baby. Like, there has to be some sort of like cost paid psychically in the universe for all of the sickness that's being removed. We must therefore be causing some other sickness. They can't just accept that vaccines are cheap and effective and safe. They have peasant brain. Democratic centrists hate that question too, because Zohran Mamdani in New York said, hey, we have food deserts in New York City. I'm going to open 5 state-run grocery stores to ensure that we have staples and healthy whole foods available. And they all lost their shit. They all started weeping and wailing their teeth and saying how it's communism. Meanwhile, we're sending $60-70 billion to private grocery stores, and they don't even have, they still have food deserts. Reality is that SNAP actually is the reason why there are food deserts is not because people don't buy wholesome food when they can afford it. It's based on dollars per calorie. And SNAP benefits have been so restricted, especially in the South, and they are so ungenerous that people get very little money per month to eat. And so they struggle to get as many calories as possible based on what's available. I actually, in one of my campaigns in 2018, one of the candidates I worked for was an advocate against food deserts. And they had done studies proving that when low-income people have access to high-quality fresh food and it's affordable, they buy it over processed food. And the main impediment to it is when they lack kitchen space, cooking utensils, or the money for like energy costs, like electricity bills or gas bills. All of that, like to cook a food at home, you need a kitchen, you need to have your electricity running or your gas running, and you need to have like a refrigerator, you need to have space to store the food, you need utensils, you need cooking appliances. Like, it's not just buy the food and then it's magically a home-cooked. Social democracy works. We know that all sorts of left-wing social democratic reforms will make all of our lives better, and if we take money from the rich and we spend it on the rest of us, society will be cleaner, better, and more productive. We already know this. It's firmly fucking established in the research. Nobody's confused. Thank you so much. I hope you guys aren't mad at me for my destruction of the bad empanada bad faith slop tube video. It is what it is. Like, I'm tired of Hassan getting attacked from every direction based off bullshit. And just because you frame it as criticism doesn't mean it's valid. And there was one tiny, tiny, tiny element that he could have been slightly better on. But instead, you took that tiny element. Oh, he had Matt Duss on. He didn't criticize him enough, even though Matt Duss said during the stream that it's a genocide and Israel starving the population. And then use it to call him a liberal Zionist and go after Hassan at his platform for attention and making slop videos. Like, I'm not going to be supporting that at all. I'm not going to be supporting anti-solidarity work at all. And I hope you have the same take as me. Nope, I'm glad you did it. I agree with you. I'm so tired of like the negative splitter wrecker energy that has consumed our space. And if there's anybody who I like and trust, Hassad is one of the main people. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We'll be back tomorrow. Is the bot working again, or is it broken? Is the chat bot just totally broken? Do we need a new chat bot? All right, everybody, I'm sending you over to Casey Tron. Thank you so much for all the support. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with more productive stuff happening. Stay safe, solidarity forever, and that's how socialism's gonna win. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you soon. Peace out.